Yes, that's the response I was expecting. Yes, sir, we have. Great. So all set, ready for the marathon. Great. So my dear friends, before we get into the revision, I will tell you the pattern in which we are going to go ahead. We will quickly glance on all the important points of this entire syllabus. Once we quickly glance onto that, then we take up type of questions, try to understand how we could have solved those questions, and then we conclude on any particular doubts you have. We will take it forward from there. So first, to discuss about the examination pattern. We all know that CA Foundation law paper is just for 60 marks. Am I right? Wrong? Great. It is for 60 marks, and trust me, my dear friends, it's going to be cakewalk because you are going to get a lot of questions. The examination pattern, again, this is just what you call one of the ways in which the examination pattern is being conducted. We have concluded this based on previous year examination question papers. Generally, there are 6 questions, 12 marks each, total 72 marks, out of which first question generally is a compulsory question. The remaining question number 2 to 6, you have to select any 4 questions. So one of the question is an option for you to leave, but not the first question. Am I clear? Great. First question is generally divided into 4 marks, okay, 3 questions. Second question is 7 and 5. Third question is 6 and 6. Fourth question is 6 and 6. Sixth question is 5, 4 and 3. So there is a combination. They have done a lot of permutation combination, 4 into 3, 6 into 2, 5 plus 4 plus 3, 7 plus 5. So these are the various permutation and combination in which the questions are asked. Depending upon your preparation, the conceptual clarity what you have, and understanding the question, you should decide which question to leave. You don't have a choice but to attempt the first question. But from question number 2 to 6, you have a choice to leave one of the question. And my dear friends, it is always recommended go in an order. Recommendation. If you are starting with question 1, complete 1A, 1B, 1C, whatever is asked. Then go to question 2. Do not write 1A, 2B, 3C, again 1B. No, that is not appreciable and you should not do that. Clear? So if you're starting with any question, whatever sub questions are there, complete that entirely and then move on. Again, how to choose the question? It purely depends upon your preparation level, my dear friends. If you're comfortable with the sub questions, even though you're choosing 3 questions, see, if you see question number 4 has just 2 questions, 6 marks each. But question number 6 has 3 questions, 5, 4 and 3. Do you think it will consume a lot of time, question number 6? Answer is no. It might consume the same time, but yes, here the probability is that you are going to write 3 questions. It might consume time, it might not consume time, depends upon your preparation level and how much confident are you about that question. Clear? The markings generally are based on your answers. It is not that it will be like exact answer. No, I would say here also they are like going with certain keywords, certain parameters, certain answers which they are looking for. One of the question the student is asked is, sir, can we write 1B, 1C and then 1A? Generally not recommended, dear. There is nothing wrong in writing that, but not recommended. If I am a teacher, I will look into blindfoldedly 1, I will assume that it is 1A. Even though you have written 1B and wrote the answer. That is a general human tendency. So do not go against the tendency and always recommended write A, B, C. Never write C, B, A or B, A, C. No. Clear? Super. Now, going on to the various kinds of questions which will be asked. Let me tell you, my dear friends, there will be minimum 2 to 3 questions which will be based on scenario based, or they would have given some situational based question. If this is this, this is this, then decide based on this what would be the outcome. Correct? It could range from 4-mark question also, 3-mark question also, 6-mark question also. The second important type of question which are generally asked is differentiation between. The third kind of question which generally is asked are essential elements and legal rules. There would be a couple of questions which are very straightforward. Do not get over enthusiastic, because in a straightforward question they are looking for technically right answer, not just the right answer. For an example or an instant, I can say, what is a contract? It's just assuming 2-mark question. Contract is an agreement enforceable by law. Those terms cannot be changed. And then you write what is agreement, what are the conditions for enforceability. They are looking for those technical terms. Even though it's a straightforward question, they are looking for those technical terms. Define partnership. Very simple, straightforward. Again, they are looking for technical terms. Who have agreed to share the profits of the business, carried on by all or any one of them acting for all. This carried on by all, any one of them acting for all. Those are the critical terms. Even though you would have explained in a beautiful language, in a layman's language that is understood perfectly right, but those straightforward questions are always tricky because they are looking for technically right answers. So be very assured that you are giving those terms in your exam, in your answers. Am I clear? Great. Now, coming to the next type of questions which will be asked is a lot of exceptions are there in our entire syllabus, right? Exception to the rule, caveat emptor, exception to the rule, non-owners cannot sell the goods, exception to the rule, various exception to the rules are there, right? So that could be one of the testing area in which you will be tested. Now, the biggest question which lies with all the CA students, foundation students are, sir, section number kya karna hai? Humble request, if you are not 101% sure, even though you are 100% sure but not 101% sure, do not quote it, because it is like you are writing a great answer but with a wrong section number. The complete answer will be treated as wrong. Section numbers gives a weighted average. थोड़ा अच्छा लगेगा. People will appreciate you. Wow, you have learned that much. But does that not mean that not writing they will not appreciate? Clear? So this is the examination pattern which you have to keep in mind. Again, this is just a tentative. It might be 4 marks into 3, all the questions also. It might be 5, 4, 3, all the questions also. So be mentally prepared. Generally, this is the pattern which has been followed. That is the reason this is one of the sample, I could say, specimen, I could say, or one of the kind of blueprint, I could say. But exactly this will come, I am not 101% sure. Clear? This is for sure 72 marks, you have to pick up 60 marks. And first question is always a compulsory question. Clear? So as we all know, there are 5 chapters, starting with Indian Contract Act, Sale of Goods Act, Partnership Act, Limited Liability Partnership and Companies Act. The highest weightage from the examination point of view is given to Indian Contract Act, followed by Companies Act, then Sale, Partnership and LLP. So, my dear friends, it is very, very important and critical that whenever you appear for this kind of examination, especially law, please make sure you are taking care of time very, very good. Because what happens at times, you will be knowing lot of answers. ये भी लिख लेता हूँ, ये भी लिख लेता हूँ, ये भी लिख लेता हूँ, because you would have known that concept, you are like into that concept and you would want to do that. But trust me, you should keep in time as an important factor. So time is the most important critical factor which you have to keep in mind before completing the answers. Clear? You cannot ignore your second section, which is again for 40 marks. That is also equally important. Clear? So this is the overview what I would want to give to you, and hope this will give some insight to you so that you are mentally prepared and there is no surprises for tomorrow's examination. Clear? Great. So the agenda for the day is a quick revision from the examination point of view, understanding exactly what are the things you have to remember and how quickly you can remember. That is most important. You have given your hard 6 months. You have invested it. 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, and tomorrow is the day which they are going to test you within those 3 hours. 1 साल की मेहनत, 6 महीने की मेहनत, and just they are going to test for 3 hours. In this 3 hours will decide what exactly you have learned in last so many days. So be well prepared. And please understand, my dear friends, one important point I would want to give is, when you see the first question and it is like a bouncer, you're not able to judge whether this question is from the syllabus or out of syllabus. Forget about chapter. Do not get panic. Ignore. Move forward. Clear? The intention of that bouncer by the examination authority is to make sure that they play a mental game with you. They would want to put you emotionally down. Be very, very strong. Clear? Can we write BCK first? Option is yes, you can, but recommended follow the flow. Clear? Great. So let's start a quick revision, and the first chapter which we all have to follow is Indian Contract Act. So I will just have prepared some notes for you all. I'll just glance through those notes, tuck, 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 and we will see, are we all knowing this? My dear friends, the request is have a notebook. If you're wanting to make an important note of some points, you can surely make that. Today's agenda is I'm not going to give you any notes. Today's agenda is I'm not going to get into the depth of any concept. It is an overview of the concept, and any particular concept you believe, okay, sir, this requires a special attention, and if I believe that is very important and critical at this junction, I will surely dig into it. If not, move on. Are you with me? Great. Superb. So let's start with Indian Contract Act. Hope my screen is visible to you all. Great. Dear friends, I have tried to summarize the entire chapter into 15-20 pages. Let's see how much coverage we have done and what is that we are trying to achieve. Clear? I know you will be knowing all the dates, section numbers, all those things. I will not stress on those. 1st September 1872, hope you all remember. At the formation, mentioning of section is not mandatory, my dear friend. At the beginning of the class, I told you the same. Great. Dear friends, let's start. What is a contract? It is an agreement which is enforceable by law. And what do you mean by the term agreement? It is a proposal by one person and acceptance by other, having consideration for each other. Clear? So there must be an offer followed by acceptance, and this offer and acceptance forms promise. If this promise has consideration for each other, it forms an agreement. What is consideration? It is nothing but something in return. Quid pro quo. Clear? So consideration means something in return. So for a contract to form, there must be an agreement, and such agreement should be enforced in the court of law. Now, this condition for enforceability is very, very important from your examination point of view. Kindly remember section 10. According to section 10, every agreement will form a contract, provided they are entered with free consent of the parties competent to contract for a lawful object with a lawful consideration and not expressly declared to be void. 5 important points provided in section 10. Please remember, the flow has to be right. Every agreement will form a contract provided they are entered with free consent of the parties, free consent, competent to contract for a lawful object with a lawful consideration and not expressly declared to be void. Clear? The law of contract is not the whole law of agreements, neither it is whole law of obligations. Because contract deals generally with business and commercial, they do not deal with social and domestic agreements. Neither the obligation arised out of those social obligations are taken into consideration. So it is neither whole lot of agreements nor whole lot of whole law of contracts. Am I clear? Great. Moving on. What are the various essential elements to form a valid contract? My dear friend, the first and foremost is there must be two parties, offerer, offeree. The second important point is intention to create legal relationship. Kindly remember case law here. The case law name is Balfour versus Balfour. In an agreement, if the parties have an intention to go to court of law, if the other party do not perform, then such agreement will be treated as a contract because these parties had an intention to go to court of law. In Balfour versus Balfour, it was treated as a social agreement and hence it was an agreement, not a contract. Third essential element is free consent of the parties. Every party entering into the contract should give their willingness to enter without any force. The parties must be capable of entering into the contract. This capacity is again divided into 3 different segments: minor, person of unsound mind, and person disqualified by law. Lawful consideration, whatever you enter into the contract, your consideration must be lawful. And next, lawful object. The purpose for which you enter into the contract should also be lawful. Agreement should not be expressly declared to be void. If you remember section 25 void agreements, lot of agreements have been given as they will not become a contract. The term of the agreement should be certain. It should be possible to perform in the real life, and wherever required, the legal formalities has to be completed. My dear friends, generally this question is asked for 6 marks. What are the essential elements of valid contract? All these 10 points with one-liner explanation to it will make sure that you receive 6 marks. Again, from the examination point of view, what are the essential elements of valid contract? This 10 points plays a key role. Clear? Great. Can we move on? Superb. Now, let's understand types of contracts. Types of contract based on creation, they could be expressed where the words are either spoken or written. Implied, which is understood other than by words spoken or written, and tacit, which is understood by conduct of the parties. Based on execution, we have executed. Please remember the term TED, ted, past tense, which means to say where both the parties have performed the respective obligations. after the formation of contract. Executory, again future, where both the parties have promised to perform their obligation after the formation of contract. Partly executed, where one of the party has performed, other is yet to perform. Remember the example, railway ticket. When you book a railway ticket, you make the payment immediately. But railway companies take you on the day of travel. So your obligation of making payment is completed at the time of formation, but railways have not yet completed their obligation to make you travel in the train. It will be done in future date. So one of the party has performed, other is yet to perform. Unilateral, again, it is nothing but partly executed and partly executory. Bilateral, where both the parties have to perform the respective obligation. So bilateral are generally executory contract. Clear? Based on enforceability, we have valid contract. Again, remember all those 10 points which we discussed just few minutes back. A valid contract is a contract which satisfied the conditions for enforceabilities. Void contract, a contract which is entered into but subsequently becomes void due to impossibility of performance, change of law, or any other reason. So in short, when created was valid but cannot be executed due to certain happenings. Void agreements, again there is a small difference, void contract and void agreements. An agreement not enforceable by law is called void agreement. Collateral to void are always void. My dear friend, again, what is a collateral? Which does not form a main part of the contract, but it is a side-by-side contract. Voidable contract, an agreement which is enforceable by law at the option of one or other party, but not at the option of other or others. Remember the example, agreement at a gunpoint. If I come, keep a gun and say, sell your chain. You're forced to sell, but you are not willing to sell. Now, such agreement becomes voidable at the option of the person whose will has been dominated because of force. Now, this becomes voidable at the person or the option of a person whose consent was not free. Illegal agreements are not only void but also unlawful and punishable. Unenforceable contract, again this is an important 2-mark question. A contract which is actually valid but cannot be enforced due to certain technical defect. Such contract can be enforced if such technical defect is removed. Dear friends, please understand, you might have to give a small example over here wherein you can just mention Mr. A entered a rental agreement on a stamp paper of rupees 10, but as per the Stamps Act, the requirement of stamp paper was rupees 50, and hence even though the agreement was on a stamp paper, it is not been enforced because it does not fulfill the conditions provided under Stamps Act, and hence if the stamp paper is upgraded to rupees 50, it will become valid. They are valid but cannot be enforced. They are called technically defective contracts. Clear? Types of contract, one question, guarantee आएगा बेटा. Directly, indirectly, knowingly, unknowingly, they will be testing you. Clear? Let's move on to understand meaning of offer. A person is said to have made a proposal when he signifies to the other his willingness to do or abstain from doing something with the view to obtain the assent of the latter. Now, the person who makes the offer is called offerer. To whom the offer is made is called offeree. Generally, offerer makes the offer and offeree accepts the offer by giving his assent. This offer may be either to do something or not to do something. To do something is a positive offer and not to do something is a negative offer. Now, how can you make an offer? It could be an express offer or it could be an implied offer. Now, express offer कैसे होता है? I promise to sell my mobile to say Prithvi. Expressed offer. Second, implied offer. The bus is running on a route written Bangalore to Mangalore. It is telling that I am going to Mangalore. It is offering the passengers that if you want to go to Mangalore, come in. And when you enter the bus, it is called implied acceptance. Am I clear? To whom the offer can be made. In case of specific offer, it has to be a definite person or a particular group of person. But in case of general offer, it can be made to a person or a public at large. And the person who has the knowledge of the same and willing to fulfill the condition of the terms of the offer can accept the offer. Am I clear? Again, my dear friends, legal rules as to valid offer, again, important questions. Number one, again, we have read in the essential elements of contract, intention to create legal relationship, Balfour versus Balfour. Whenever you make an offer, it should be a commercial offer, not a social offer. Second, the terms of the offer must be certain. It cannot be ambiguous. These are the two important questions which will come from the examination point of view. Difference between offer and invitation to offer. What is an offer? His willingness to offer, perform is an offer. Invitation to offer is nothing but inviting public at a large or inviting public to receive the offer from the public is called invitation to offer. Example, auction sale, your advertisements, your MRP, correct? So invitation to offer is never an offer. Declaration of intention is not an offer. I think I will teach you. Is it an offer? Answer is no. Clear? Next, offer must be communicated to the party. In case of general, to public at large. In case of specific, to that particular person. Clear? Offer should not contain the term the non-acceptance will amount to acceptance. Again, you cannot force an offeree to accept the offer of the offerer. And at last, the offer may contain special terms. But the only condition is those terms should be disclosed to the other party before acceptance. Am I clear? Important 4 to 6 mark question. Legal rules as to valid offer. Can we move on? Okay. Types of offer. We will look into types of offer. Number one, specific offer given to individual person. General offer given to public at large. Next comes cross offer. What is a cross offer? Cross offers are similar offer given by parties in ignorance of original offer. I write a letter that I want to sell my house to you. If you are interested, kindly reply. At the same time, you write a letter to me. Sir, are you willing to sell your? I am willing to buy your house. Kindly reply if you are willing to sell. So both have offered each other without any acceptance. These are called cross offers. They are two identical offer. Standing offer. Standing offer is an offer which is open to be accepted over the period of time. Generally, it is same as that of invitation to offer, that I am wanting to give 50% discount from 1st January to 10th January. Clear? Next, acceptance. Acceptance means giving consent to the offer. Who can give the acceptance? In case of specific offer, the person who has received the offer should give it. In case of general offer, any person who has a knowledge of that particular offer and wanting to fulfill the terms of such offer, he can accept the offer. How can the acceptance be made? It can be made by an express acceptance or by an implied acceptance. What are the legal rules? Legal rules of acceptance says the acceptance must be absolute and unqualified. It should be in the prescribed or usual mode. Generally, when the offer is made, the offerer mentions the mode in which he is accepting the acceptance. In such case, you should follow that prescribed mode. If not, any general mode of communication. The communication of acceptance must be given to the offerer himself. Communication by the offeree must be given by its offeree or its authorized agent. It must be given within a prescribed time, and if the time is not prescribed, within reasonable time, and it must be made before the lapse of the offer. These are the important points you have to remember from your examination point of view. Communication and revocation of offer and acceptance. My dear friend, please understand this. Absolute and unqualified means without any change. My dear friend, absolute and unqualified means to say without any change. I say I want to sell my house to you for rupees 50,000. Darshan replies to me stating that I want to buy your house for 50,000 provided you sell your car which you own along with the house. What was my offer? It was only for house. What are you accepting? You are accepting the house along with my car. Then your acceptance is not absolute. Am I clear, Darshan? What do you mean by the term reasonable time? Reasonable time means to say it is a matter of fact, depends upon the circumstances of the cases. Now, if I want to sell my oranges, what is the reasonable time you should accept it? Within a day or two, because they are perishable goods. But if I wanted to sell my bungalow, it might be 1 week, 10 days, depending upon the circumstances. So reasonable time, whenever time is not mentioned, law has mentioned reasonable time, and this reasonable time is a matter of fact, depends upon the circumstances of the cases. Clear? Great. Next, communication of offer and acceptance. My dear friend, quickly recalling this, again, an important concept from the examination point of view. You have to be technically right here. Generally, they do not ask 1, 6, 9. No, date ke saath nahi denge. They will be asking the circumstances. Can we proceed? Communication of offer. When is offer completed? The offer is completed as soon as it comes to the knowledge of the other party. If in case of offer is made by post, then communication will complete when the letter of offer reaches offeree. Communication of acceptance against the proposer. When it is put in the transmission, when is the acceptance completed against the offerer? When the offeree duly write his acceptance, stamps, seals, and post it to the offerer. Acceptance is completed against offerer. When is acceptance completed against offeree? When the letter of acceptance reaches offerer. Clear? Next, revocation. When can an offerer revoke his acceptance? The offerer revoke his acceptance any time before the communication of acceptance is completed. In such situation, what happens? Assuming I wrote a letter on 1st, it reached the other party on 4th. The other party replied the letter by 6th. Before 6th, I should have revoked the offer. After 6th, I cannot revoke the offer. Am I clear? Time limit within the acceptance can be revoked. An acceptance can be revoked any time before the communication of acceptance is completed as against offerer, but not afterwards. No revocation in case of contract over telephone or telex or fax. My dear friend, in case of telephone, telex or fax, revocation is not there. I call up and say, I want to sell my bungalow to you for 50,000. You say, yes, I am willing to buy. After that, how can I revoke? You have accepted and that communication of acceptance have reached me. Am I clear? Great. How does an offer come to an end? An offer may come to an end by revocation. This revocation should happen before acceptance, by lapse of time, where the offer is opened for a specific period of time and it is not accepted within that period of time, it comes to an end. Third, by death. In case of an offerer dies, the offer comes to an end. By failure to accept the conditions, by counter offer, by not accepting the prescribed mode, by rejection, and by subsequent impossibility or destruction of subject matter. These are the various ways in which offer comes to an end. Sir, what if letter of acceptance and letter of revocation arrives together? Again, an important foundation question. Let me frame the question and ask you. Mr. X wrote a letter of acceptance on 6th January and posted it. Mr. X again wrote a letter of revocation on 7th January and speed post that to Mr. Y. So on 6th, he has written the letter of acceptance. On 7th, he has written the letter of rejection. Both this letter reaches Mr. Y on say 9th January. In this case, what will happen? The general rule says, it will be either valid acceptance or valid rejection, depends upon which letter Mr. Y opens first. Generally, in a normal situation, if ordinary post and speed post comes to you, what will you open? Generally speaking, it will be speed post. And if Mr. Y opens speed post first, it will be valid rejection. If he opens post first, it will be valid acceptance. Am I clear? Great. Here ends the first unit of Indian Contract Act. Hope you are all following whatever I am saying. Yes. Great. Can we move on? The second chapter, competent to contract. Again, as discussed, three important parties. Number one, minor. Number two, person of unsound mind. And number three, person disqualified by law. Minor is a person who has not attained age of majority. And generally, the age of majority is governed by Indian Majority Act. And this Indian Majority Act says generally it is 18 years, but when the minor is under guardianship, it will be on completion of 21 years. Am I clear? Great. Second, person of unsound mind. Person of unsound mind means to say when at the time of formation of contract, he is not in a position to understand the terms of the contract and cannot take a rational decision based on the same. Such persons are called idiots, lunatics, and drunkards. Person disqualified by law. Again, law assumes that these are the type of people with which the general public should not get into the contract. They are alien enemies, foreign sovereigns, insolvents, convicts, and corporations. So let us see minor first. Who is a minor? Minor is a person who has not attained the age of majority. And what are the various position of an agreement in case of agreement by a minor? First and foremost point you have to remember, an agreement with a minor is void ab initio, which means to say anything given to minor is equal to Tirupati Nabam. It cannot be recovered. Second, a minor can plead for his minority. He will not be stopped from pleading the minority even though he has wrongfully represented him as a major. Clear? But in case of that, the court might compensate the other party provided they are able to trace the property supplied to the minor. Third, any agreement entered with the minor during minority cannot be altered after attaining majority. Fourth, in case of joint promise with a minor and a major, the liability lies with the major, not with the minor. A minor cannot become a full-fledged partner in a partnership firm. However, he may be admitted for the benefits of the firm. A minor can be agent. Minor can enter into all those contracts which benefits them. A minor can be a shareholder, but the rule is very, very clear. It should be fully paid up, and the article of association should not prohibit a minor to become a partner. Sorry, become a shareholder. If that prohibits, then a minor cannot be a shareholder. He can be a nominee of a shareholder. A minor cannot be declared as insolvent. And what are the contracts entered by guardians? Again, this is a 2-mark question. Important question है, थोड़ा ध्यान से सुनना. A contract entered into or behalf of a minor by his guardian or the manager of an asset can be enforced against him, provided it is within the scope of authority and it is for the benefit of the minor. It is also to be noted that guardian cannot enforce the valid contract of the purchaser of the immovable for his services. So first of all, can a minor act on behalf of the minor? Sorry, guardian act on behalf of the minor? Answer is no. Then when can they act? Number one, they should get the prior approval from the court. And the court should have given them an authority to act. And number two, this agreement so entered should be for the benefit of the minor. In such case, minors will be liable for the act of the guardian. Next comes necessary. Necessary means all those articles required for a person to live a normal life. In India, necessary includes food, clothing, shelter, education, marriage of female, and other necessaries. Whenever necessaries are supplied to the minor or any other person legally dependent on such minor, then such necessaries can be recovered from minor's property. If minor does not have any property, then no recovery. Clear? The things supplied should constitute necessaries and the minor should not have an adequate supply of such necessaries. Clear? My dear friends, I know you are all waiting for question and answers. But let me tell you, my dear friends, we will quickly revise all this and then move on to the question and answers. That will help you a lot. Clear? Minor's liability in case of thought. Thought means to say civil wrong and minor will be held liable. Dear friends, in necessaries, one of the important concept, and I stress this point, please recall. Whenever necessaries are supplied to minor and it is continued to be supplied after attaining majority, in such case, this liability will be of dash minor minus property or equally. Whenever necessaries are supplied to the minor and it is continued to be supplied after attaining majority on the request of such minor, then it will become the liability of that minor who has become major or that minor's property or equally both. My dear friend, in this situation, the liability will be of that minor and it will be a personal liability, not from the date of attaining majority, but from the date when the necessaries were supplied. Example, I supplied necessaries to Prithvi during age of 17. 17 done, 18 done, she has become a major. She requested for continuing the necessaries for her education. I continued during 19, 20, 21, 22. Now, every year I have spent 50,000 rupees. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 3 lakh rupees is what I have invested on Prithvi. Law says 1 lakh rupee was during minority and balance 2 lakh rupees were after attaining majority. But it was on the request of the Prithvi, who was minor and now has become major. In such case, this liability will not be linked to the property of Prithvi, but it will become a personal liability of Prithvi. Am I clear? Great. Can we move on? If she hasn't requested, then no liability of that minor. So the terms are very, very clear. Supplied during minority and continued to supply after attaining majority. Am I clear? Next, person of unsound mind. A person is said to be of unsound mind when he is not in a position to understand the terms of the contract and cannot take a rational decision. Idiot, they are called Janma Jat Murkh. They cannot understand the term of the contract in any given day. Lunatic, they are usually of sound mind but occasionally of unsound mind. In such case, they can enter into the contract during lucid intervals. It is a period when they are of sound mind. Remember this term lucid interval. Lucid interval kya hai? A period when they are of sound mind. In such case, those contracts entered during lucid intervals will be valid. And a person who is drunk, again, what is the definition of drunkard? He should have drunk so much, or he should be under the influence of alcoholic substance to an extent that he is not able to understand the terms of the contract. Again, it depends upon the personal capacity. If he is not drunk, the contract entered will be valid. If he is drunk and not able to understand the terms of the contract, it will be void. Am I clear? Person disqualified by law, alien enemy. Alien whose country is at war with the Republic of India is called alien enemy. What is the position during war? The alien enemy, the contract becomes void. Entered before war, then there are two situations. Number one, if it is against the public policy, absolutely void and dissolved. If it is not against the public policy, it can be kept on hold, suspended for a period of time, and after the war ends, it can be continued. Am I clear? Foreign sovereigns can enter into the contract and enforce them in the court, but they cannot be sued by our court without the sanction of central government. So they have a special privilege. Law has said them, touch me not prani. So please understand, foreign sovereigns have a special privilege. Only they can enter into contract with presidents and prime ministers of India. General public, if they enter, they cannot sue them. Convicts are the person who are behind the bars. They cannot enter into the contract during the time they are behind the bars. If they are out on parole or after completion of the term of imprisonment, they can enter into the contract. Corporation, they contractual capacity is governed by its MOA, and if any act done beyond the contractual capacity mentioned in MOA, it will become ultra virus. An insolvent person whose assets, whose net realizable value of assets are more than actual liabilities, then such person's property will withstand with a person appointed by court called official receiver. In such situation, he cannot enter into the contract till the old liabilities are settled down by the official receiver. Am I clear? Let's understand the next topic called consideration. Consideration means to say something in return. Essential elements, again an important question. Essential elements of valid consideration. Number one, it should move at the desire of promisor, which is the case law. Chinnaya versus Ramaya is not for that beta. Chinnaya versus Ramaya is for consideration may be given by promisee or any other person on their behalf. Correct? Anyhow, it must always move at the desire of promiser. If the promiser has not given his willingness, the other party does it, he is not liable to pay. Number two, consideration may move from promisee or any other person on his behalf. Here comes Chinnaya versus Ramaya. Correct? For a valid contract, the consideration may pass from any other person other than the promisee also, and that will be valid. Consideration may be past, present, or future. General rule in India, all three are valid. Important note, mention it. Clear, clear, clear शब्दों में लिखना है. Under English law, past consideration is not valid. Clear? Yes. Durga Prasad versus Baldev. Number 4, consideration need not be adequate. What do you mean by the term adequacy? Equal to, at par. 100 rupees article to be sold at 100 rupees is an adequate consideration. So law says consideration may be adequate, may not be adequate, depends upon the contracting party, but it should have some value in the eye of law. Number 4, it must be real and not illusory. I promise to pay, or I promise to get stars from the sky, might not be valid because they are just illusions. It must be something which the promiser is not already bound to do. Example, remember? Policeman is bound to catch the thief and you provide extra consideration to policeman for catching the thief, then that consideration will not be valid. Consideration must be lawful and it must not be opposed to public policy. Dear friends, again an important 6-mark question, essential element of valid consideration. Whenever this question is asked for 6 marks, first write what is consideration, then go on to write essential elements. So consideration, you have to remember. If you don't remember the definition also, no problem. In a layman's language, you have to write consideration in simple terms means something in return. Clear? In Latin, it is termed as quid pro quo. The various essential elements of consideration includes, number 1, it must always move at. Number 2, promisee. Number 3, past, present, future. Number 4, adequate, inadequate. Number 5, real. Number 6, it must not be something which the promiser is already bound to do. Number 7, it must be lawful and it should not be opposed to public policy. Tuck, 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 point, finish. Yes, if it is just a 2-mark question, side heading will do. 4-mark question or 6-mark question, single liner explanation is required. Clear? Again, important rule, stranger to consideration and stranger to contract. Stranger to dash can sue or be sued, but stranger to dash cannot sue or be sued. Stranger to dash can sue or be sued. Yes, stranger to consideration can sue or be sued, but stranger to contract cannot sue or be sued. Am I clear? That is a rule of doctrine of privity of contract. Clear? Write a note on doctrine of privity of contract, could be a question. Doctrine of privity of contract means to say contract is a private relationship between the parties and only party to the contract can sue or be sued. The person who is not a party to the contract is called stranger to contract, but a party on whose behalf the contract has been entered, then he becomes stranger to consideration. Generally, stranger to contract cannot sue, but stranger to consideration can sue. And these are the exception to the rule where stranger to contract cannot sue. Number 1, family settlement. Number 2, in case of trust, beneficiary of trust. Number 3, acknowledgement of liabilities. And number 4, assignment of contract. Namo det quid non habet are same. No. Namo det habet quid is nothing but no one could pass a better title than what he himself has. Clear? No consideration, no contract, section 25, important section number again. Generally, the thumb rule says For a valid contract, there must be some consideration. If the consideration is missing, then it will not be valid. An agreement made without consideration is absolutely void. But there are certain exceptions. Again, an important question. So consideration में तीन important questions हैं. Essentials, privity, and no consideration, no contract. Out of these three, the probability of one is high. Exception to the rule, no consideration, no contract. Number one, if the contract is based on natural love and affection, then the rules comes, it must be in writing. The parties must be in near and dear relationship, and it must be based on natural love and affection. It can be performed. Number two, compensation for the past voluntary services. Number three, written promise to pay time barred debts. Okay, my dear friends, this time barred debt is governed by dash. Which act? Yes, Limitation Act. For a movable property, how much years, and for immovable properties, how many years? Movable 3, immovable 12. Am I clear? Great. Completed gift does not require consideration. There is no consideration required to create an agency or for a gratuitous bailment. Am I clear? These are the various exception to the rule, no consideration, no contract. Am I clear? Can we move on? Great. Yes, charity is also not required. Again, in charity, if the person has acted on based of that promise, then he will be liable to that particular extent. Am I clear, Prithvi? Great. Next, consent and free consent. Consent means to giving an assent to the offer. Free consent means to say whenever you provide your assent, it should not involve any force. In case of consent missing, it is void. In case of free consent missing, it is voidable at the option of aggrieved party. Let's understand what is coercion. Again, when I said to be consent missing, if a consent is obtained by coercion, undue influence, fraud, or misrepresentation. So let us understand what is coercion. Coercion means to say compelling a person to enter into a contract by adopting unfair means. Clear? It could be to do, commit, or threaten to commit any act forbidden by IPC. Next, unlawful detaining or threatening to detain any property, irrespective of whether IPC is in place or not. Coercion may be employed by any person or may be directed against any person. Coercion may be due to threat to commit suicide, provided there is a relationship between the parties. Clear? Next, threat to file a suit is not a coercion. Effects of coercion. Okay, what are the various other things included which are not coercion? Number one, file a suit. Number two, statutory compliances. If you have not followed the statutory compliances, love letter aayega na? Yes or no? Income tax will send a notice. Can you say they are filing a case, so I don't want to, I was forced to? Answer is no. Am I clear? So there are 4-5 exceptions. Kindly read the same. Next, effects of coercion. It becomes voidable at the option of aggrieved party. Any benefit given should be restored. Am I clear? Undue influence. Again, undue influence means to say domination of the will. My dear friend, very very important terms. Undue influence आया और आपने ये 2 point नहीं लिखा, your answer is absolutely null and void. Again, stressing on those points. Whenever the term undue influence comes, define undue influence, effects of undue influence, then these are the important terms you have to remember, understand, and write. Number one, the relationship subsisting between parties are such that one of them is in the position to dominate the will, and the dominating party has used such position to obtain the unfair advantage of the other. This is the important line, and if this is missing, whatever you write might not carry the weightage. Am I clear? Relationships subsisting between the parties are such that one of the party is in a dominating position and has used his position to dominate. Am I clear? Second, these are the following circumstances under which the pre-assumptions of domination of will comes into the picture. Number one, where the person holds real and apparent authority, which means to say direct or indirect control, master and a servant. Where the party stands in a fiduciary relationship, which means to say relationship of trust and confidence. Near and dear. So does fiduciary relationship give the same meaning of near and dear relationship? No. Near and dear generally means blood relationship. Fiduciary relationship is of trust and confidence. Teacher and a student is a fiduciary relationship, but not a near and dear relationship. Clear? Where the contract, where one of the person's mental capacity is affected by old age, illness, or sickness. These are the three things under which the undue influence can be pre-assumed. Clear? These are the three relationships where undue influence cannot be pre-assumed. Number one, husband and wife. Number two, landlord and a tenant. And number three, creditor and debtor. Effects of undue influence: contract becomes voidable at the option of aggrieved party. Under undue influence, please dhyan se sunna. The court might come into the picture, can alter or cancel the terms of the contract. Am I clear? Fraud and misrepresentation. Fraud means a false representation of a material fact done willfully with the knowledge to deceive the other party. The essential elements of fraud includes it must be done by a party to the contract. He must have done a false representation. The intention of doing that should be to deceive the other party, and the act of the party should be based on such representations. Effects of fraud: the contract is voidable, right to insist upon performance, and right to claim damages. Does a silent amount to fraud? General rule says mere silence as to affect the likely to affect the willingness of a person to enter into a contract does not amount to fraud. But the exceptions. Silence will amount to fraud in the following circumstances. Number one, where the party stands in a fiduciary relationship. Number two, where the contract is of uberme fidei, utmost good faith, where silence is equivalent to speech, and where it is a half truth. Misrepresentation means to say representation of a fact made by a party innocently without having the knowledge of its falsity. Again, the essential elements are very similar. It must be done by a party to the contract. The false representation he should believe is true, but actually it should be false. It should induce the other party to enter into the contract, and the other party should have entered on the basis of such representation. Effects: it becomes voidable at the option of aggrieved party, but you cannot claim damages. Am I clear? Mistake. Mistake means to say where both the parties understand the terms in a different sense, where consensus ad idem is missing. Mistake of Indian law is generally treated as valid since every individual is obligated to know the land of the law, land of the country. Mistake of foreign law is generally treated as mistake of fact and it is voidable. Bilateral mistake, where both the parties have understand the terms of the contract in the different sense in different time. Generally, they are all void. It could be mistake of subject matter, mistake of title, mistake of quality, mistake of quantity, etc. Unilateral mistakes are generally valid where only one person is under the mistake. But there are a couple of exceptions to it. Number one, if the unilateral mistake is with respect to identity of a party, the agreement is void. If it is as to the nature of the contract, the agreement is void. And if it is as to the other matter, the agreement is void. Am I clear? Yes, no? Great. Can we proceed? I know it's a one-way communication. It's only getting absorbed into you. My intention is to make sure that you recall from your examination point of view. That is the reason today it's only one-way communication from my side. But hope you are able to follow, close your eyes and recall things which you have learned, and able to remember and feeling happy that yes, I remember this. Yes, I know this. Yes. How many of you are getting that good feeling of yourself? Chalo, ye bhi pata hai, ye bhi pata hai. Yes, I know this. Yes. Great. Superb. Which means to say you have revised. You are ready for the marathon. Not only for the marathon, but for the examination tomorrow. Great. Superb. Can we move on? Void agreements, we are not enforceable by law. Examples: agreement with a person of incompetent person, agreement entered by mutual mistake, agreement where the object or consideration is unlawful, agreement which are partly unlawful, agreement made without consideration, agreement in restraint of marriage, agreement in restraint of trade, agreement in restraint of legal proceeding, wagering agreements, and impossible agreements. So, my dear friends, void agreements are those which cannot be enforced in the court of law. They include the following: agreements without consideration, agreement made by incompetent parties, agreement made on the mutual ground of mistake, restraint of trade, legal proceeding, marriage. So these are the points you have to remember. Clear? Okay. Agreement and restraint of trade. Generally, restraint of trade is void, but there are exceptions. Number one exception, seller of goodwill. The seller of goodwill can be stopped by the buyer of goodwill to continue the business in a specified local limit for a specific period of time which is reasonable in nature. Number two, by a partnership agreement, a partner can be stopped from carrying on the similar business as that of the firm. Third, by trade combinations. Fourth, by service agreements. So these are the various exceptions to the rule restraint of trade. Next. Okay. Meaning and validity of various agreement. Uncertain agreements, void. Wagering agreement, generally void, but in state of Gujarat and Maharashtra, illegal. Collateral agreements, generally collateral to illegal are illegal. So in the state of Gujarat and Maharashtra, it is illegal. Other state, it is void. Agreement based on impossible event, they are also void. Legal proceeding. Can you explain legal proceeding, sir? My dear friend, interfering with the course of justice. Kidnapping the judge, son and daughter, and say, kindly give the judgment in my favor, otherwise. Clear? Interfering in the course of justice. Contingent contracts, generally valid. And these are the various kind of void agreements and types of void agreements. Can we move on? Performance. Performance means to say fulfilling the contractual obligation under a contract. Performance can be of two types. Number one, actual performance, and number two, attempted performance. Actual performance, where the parties have actually performed the respective obligation. Attempted performance, where one of the party is willing to perform his obligation but not able to perform because the other party is not willing to accept the performance. Clear? Great. Dear friends, any doubt? Great. Now, tender. Tender means nothing but, what is tender? Attempted performance. Tender could be of two types, tender of goods and service and tender of money. What are the various essential elements of valid tender? Number one, it must be unconditional. Number two, it must be made at a proper time and place. Number three, it must be for the entire obligation. Number four, it must be a reasonable opportunity should be given to the promisee. Number five, it should be made to a proper person, and the tender of money should be in legal tender money. Who can perform the contract? Who can demand the contract? Demand is by promisee, legal representative of promisee, third party, and joint promisees. Who can demand? Promiser, sorry, who should perform? Promiser, promiser's agent, promiser's legal representative, third party, and joint promisers. Joint promise. How many of you remember the term joint promise? Where there are more than one party, either as a promiser or as a promisee or both. Yes or no? Can we proceed? Time and place of contract. Where time is not specified within a reasonable time, where time is specified during specified, then it should be performed within that hours on a business day and on a particular day. Business hours on a particular day. Time specified by the promisee is to be performed on the promisee's application. The promisee must apply for the performance where it is not specified. Place not specified, the promiser must apply to the promisee to appoint a reasonable place. Am I clear? Time and essence of contract. Time is an essential element, means that timely performance was very important in a particular contract. Time is generally considered to be essential in the following cases. Please, this is an important question from your examination point of view. In the following cases, time is usually considered to be essence of contract. Number one, where the parties have expressly agreed to treat time as essence. Number two, where the non-performance of a specified time operates as an injury to the party. And number three, the nature and necessity of the contract requires the performance of the contract within the specified time. In commercial transaction, time fixed for delivery of goods or not for payments of price is considered to be the essence of contract. Generally, in commercial contract, time is always essential, but payment is never considered to be essentials, even though they are important to be fulfilled. Am I clear? What are the consequences? Where time is essential, contract becomes voidable. Where time is not essential, contract does not become voidable. Where time is essential, the promisee can claim compensation, but where time is not essential, promisee can claim compensation. Clear? Reciprocal promise. Promise which forms consideration or part of consideration for each other are called reciprocal promise. This reciprocal promise could be of three types: mutual and independent, mutual and dependent, and mutual and concurrent. Mutual and independent are both the parties have to perform independent of without waiting for the others to perform. Mutual and dependent means to say party's performance was dependent on the prior performance of the other party. And mutual and concurrent means to say both the parties should have performed the promise simultaneously. Clear? Assignment of contract. Assignment means to say transfer of contractual rights and liabilities to the third party. Generally, assignment happens by an act of the parties by assigning it. This contractual rights can be assigned to a third party subject to all equalities between the parties. And in case where the law comes into the picture, they generally come into the picture in case of death or insolvency. Am I clear? Appropriation of payment. The term appropriation of payment means to say discharge of debts. How will you appropriate the money received? When there are more than one debt due and the total amount received is not in the full consideration of the entire amount due, then such debt should be appropriated in which manner? Law says kindly follow the following rules. Rule number 1 to be followed first. If it is silent, follow 2. If it is silent, follow 3. If it is silent, follow 4. Number 1, whenever you receive the payment, follow debtor's instruction. If debtor has not mentioned any instruction, then follows debtor's implied intention. If that intention also does not match, then follows creditor's choice. If creditor also remains silent, then law says the first debt should be discharged first. Clear? In case where the interest is outstanding on those appropriation of payment, the first thing which gets settled is interest, and then in the manner in which the debt was created. Clear? Great. Discharge. Discharge means to say termination of contractual relationship between the parties. Discharge of performance, it can happen in the following manner. Number one, discharge by performance. Number two, mutual agreement. Number three, operation of law, impossibility of performance, lapse of time, and by breach. So discharge में 6 point याद रखना. Kindly remember, discharge means to say end, and end always happens with a super sixer. Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Correct? Number one, performance. Number two, mutual agreement. Number three, operation of law. Number four, impossibility. Number five, lapse of time. And number six, breach of contract. Performance we just saw. It could be actual or attempted. Mutual agreement. Let's understand new mutual agreement. A contract is to be said to be discharged by mutual agreement by novation. Again, my dear friends, it is an important concept. Novation, rescission, alteration, remission, and waiver. Technically speaking, it's a 6-mark question. याद रखना shortcut टक 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 टक. Novation means to say substitution. The term substitution is very, very, very important. And this substitution should happen before the due date of performance. Substitution of old contract with a new contract before the due date of performance. In novation, there could be the novation between the same parties, or there could be a change in the party. Rescission means to say cancellation of original contract, either cancelling one of the term or all the terms. Alteration means to say change in terms. Remission means to say accepting lesser sum when actually more is due. This remission again could be asked separately for 2 marks or 4 marks. Remission means to say accepting lesser sum or providing additional time to perform without changing or altering the original contract, or accepting any other consideration other than due. So 18 point important रखना remission में. Accepting lesser sum, extending time, and accepting some other consideration other than due. So remission could be a separate question for 2 mark itself. Clear hai? Great. Waiver means to say intentional giving up of your right under a contract. Discharge by operation of law. Operation of law generally comes into the place under the following circumstances. Number one, death. Number two, insolvency. Number three, unauthorized material alteration. And number four, by the identity of the promisor and promisee. What does it mean? Where the rights and duties of the parties rest in the same person. Remember the example, check issued. Again, how many of you remember? I issued a check to Ram. Ram issued the same check to Shyam. Shyam issued the same check to Ghanshyam, and he came back to me. Where the rights and obligation rest in the same party, the contract is said to be discharged. Great. Next comes impossibility. Meaning of impossibility could be of 2 types. Number one, initial impossibility, and number two, subsequent impossibility. These initial impossibilities are again of 2 types: known to parties, not known to both parties. If the promisor and promisee know it is initially impossible to perform, it is void ab initio. If they do not know, then it will become void on the ground of mutual mistake. Supervening impossibilities are those impossibilities which arises after the formation of contract. They are not in existence. This can happen where the act becomes impossible, where the act is unlawful, where the promisor alone knows about the impossibilities, where agreement discovered to be void. Cases are destruction of subject matter, death of a person, destruction, declaration of war, change in law, non-existence of the subject matter. Cases where the contract is not discharged on the ground of supervening impossibility. My dear friends, again, this is an important concept. Exception to the rule, supervening impossibility. Again, this supervening impossibility or impossibility of performance by itself can be divided into three different questions. They might ask, write a note on supervening impossibility. Discharge of contract on the ground of impossibility, 6 marks. Then you have to mention what is impossibility, what are the types of impossibilities, what are the cases under which it can be declared as void, and what are the exception to the supervening impossibility. This is a 6-mark question. Second, they might just ask circumstances of supervening impossibility, then you stick to supervening impossibility, 2 marks. There might be a question which are asked on ground of impossibility and their exceptions, 4 marks, then you have to mention both. So exceptions, dhyan se sunna, exceptions where supervening impossibility will not be taken into consideration are difficulty of performance, commercial impossibility, default of a third party, strikes, lockouts and civil disturbance, and partial impossibility. Lapse of time, it is generally governed by Limitation Act, 3 years and 12 years. Discharge of breach, this breach could be of two types, actual breach and anticipatory breach. Actual breach can happen on the due date of performance or during the course of performance. Anticipatory breach generally happens before the due date of performance. Now, anticipatory breach, what happens? The party has two options. He can treat this anticipatory breach as an actual breach and claim damages, or he may treat the contract as operative and wait till the date of performance and claim damages if the promise is still unremained, remains unperformed. If the parties wait till the date of performance, then the promisor, if supplies the goods or perform his obligation, he is bound to accept it. Number two, if the contract is discharged on the ground of supervening impossibility, he loses his right to claim the damages. Am I clear? Next, remedies for breach. These remedies for breach could be number one, rescission of a contract. Number two, damages. Damages का important rule याद रखना. Damages are always and always direct. There cannot be indirect. Damages is always a compensation, not a penalty. Am I clear? Great. So let's understand types of damages. Number one, ordinary damages, contract price minus market price. Special damages, where both the parties are aware of the special circumstances. Vindictive damages are kind of exemplary damages are those which are in nature of punishment. The court may award in the following two circumstances. Number one, breach of contract of marriage, and number two, wrongful dishonor of check. Nominal damages are just just a namesake damage. Damages for inconvenience is for a party to recover damages for inconvenience. Next comes suit for specific performance. Generally, this suit for specific performance is a court's order to carry on the contract as agreed. Whenever the monetary compensation is not an adequate remedy, then court awards such damages to the aggrieved party. It generally happens in case where monetary compensation is not adequate remedy. It's a sale of immovable property. It might be sale of some antique, where there are no exact substitute available. Suit for injunction means to say it is technically called as a court's order prohibiting a person to do a particular act. It is nothing but a stay order. Am I clear? Liquidated damages. Okay. Quantum merit ek tha. Yes. Suit for quantum merit means to say as much as merited or done. The day on which the contract is put to an end, on that day, whatever the other person has worked has to be compensated. Liquidated damages and penalties are prefixed. Estimate of damage. If they are reasonable, they are called liquidated. If they are unreasonable, they are called penalty. and Indian courts only allowed reasonable damages and not penalty. Next comes quasi-contract. Quasi-contracts are those contracts which are not a real contract, but they are resembling contract. The rights under the contract are generally given as if the original contract was entered. Correct? The right is available against a specific person and not against the entire world. What are the various things of quasi-contract? Number one, right to recover the necessary supply to a minor person. Number two, right to recover money paid on behalf of the other person in which he is interested. Right to recover for non-gratuitous act. Finder of lost good who is generally treated as watchman. And right to recover money from a person on which he has wrongfully delivered the goods by mistake or under coercion. Now, there are 3-4 important concepts which has not been covered under these notes. Number one, the concept of finder of lost goods itself. The finder of lost goods have the following rights: to take the possession of the goods, to search the true owner, give back the goods to the true owner, claim award, if any, announced by the true owner, and claim reasonable compensation or all those direct expenses received incurred in finding the true owner. He can resell the goods. He can resell the goods under the following circumstances. Number one, if the true owner is not found. Number two, if he is found but not willing to pay the lawful charges. Number three, if the goods are perishable in nature. And number four, if the cost of finding the true owner amounts to 2/3 value of the goods. Clear? The second thing which we have not understood is wagering agreement in detail and contingent contract in detail. So let us understand both. With that, we come to an end on Indian Contract Act. Wagering agreement is an agreement where money or money's worth is payable on happening or non-happening of a future uncertain event. It is nothing but a game of chance, but not a game of skill. Wagering, these are the following wagering agreements, where the parties intend to settle the price difference without taking or giving the delivery of the goods or shares. Number two, where the prize money is less than 500 rupees in the game of horse riding. Number three, lotteries. Clear? Great. Wagering agreements are generally void. They are also illegal in the states of Gujarat and Maharashtra. Any collateral agreement in wagering agreement will be void except in the state of Gujarat and Maharashtra, where it will be illegal. Contingent contract is to do or not to do something if an event collateral to that main contract does or does not happen. It depends upon happening of an event, non-happening of an event, happening of an event within the specified time, non-happening of an event within a specified time, and future conduct of third parties and impossibilities. Above 5 are possible, valid. The last is void. Impossibility is always void. Here ends Indian Contract Act. My dear friends, I will give you 5 minutes. Just think, don't go anywhere. Close your eyes and think any particular concept where you want some clarification with respect to Indian Contract Act. If it is important, I will look into it. If not, I will ignore that question. But you have all the right to post the question. Circumstances of reciprocal promise. Okay. I will take up this question. Next question. Exception to restraint of trade. I have already discussed, but still again, I will do that. Next. Great. Let me take up both the question. Circumstances of reciprocal promise. Reciprocal promise means to say a promise for a promise. A promise which forms consideration or part of consideration is called a reciprocal promise. This reciprocal promise could be mutual and dependent, where a performance of one party depends upon the prior performance of the other party. Such promise is called mutual and dependent. Second, mutual and independent, where both the parties have to perform the respective obligation irrespective of other being performing or not. And number three, mutual and concurrent, which means to say both the parties have to perform the promises at the similar time. Sir, is all the present consideration promises are reciprocal promise? Present consideration is generally a reciprocal promise which is mutual and concurrent, where both perform their obligation simultaneously. Exceptions to restraint of trade. Generally, every person has a right to carry on any lawful trade, profession, or occupation. Clear? Now, this cannot be restrained because it is against the public policy. But under the following circumstances, a person can be stopped from carrying on those lawful trade, profession, or occupation. Number one, if the buyer of the goodwill can stop the seller of the goodwill from carrying on the similar business in the specified local limit for a reasonable period of time. Number two, in a service agreement, the employer can stop the employee during the tenure of employment to render the similar services at some other place. And after quitting, he should not do it within the specified local limit or a reasonable period of time. Number three, it could be for a mutual benefit. It is called trade combination, where the wholesaler can stop the retailer to sell a specific period or specific kind of goods for a specific period of time. Clear? By a partnership agreement, a partner can be restrained from carrying on the similar business as that of a firm. Clear? Okay, any other question? Should we take up question answers of this particular chapter now, or at the last I will solve one of the question paper? Let me solve one of the question paper at the last. We'll complete Sale of Goods Act and then move on. Clear? What if the letter of acceptance is lost via transmit? My dear friend, still the other party will be obligated. Next, let's start with Sale of Goods Act 1930. So can you explain future conduct of a third party? Okay. My performance depends upon the future conduct of the other party. If Gopal sir teaches law, I will not teach law. When is my obligation to perform? If Gopal sir does not teach law. If Gopal sir teaches law, am I liable to perform? No. So that is called future conduct of third party. So difference between wagering agreement and contingent contract is important. Yes, it is important. Clear? Great. Can we start? In insurance, you have some other interest other than happening or non-happening of a future uncertain event. But in wagering, you don't have that. Insurance is generally taken for a fixed premium paid every year. Clear? Great. The Sale of Goods Act 1930. I know you will all remember the dates, blah, 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 everything. The only thing I would want to say is Sale of Goods Act deals only and only with movable goods. It does not deal with immovable goods, pledge, mortgage, am I clear, or services. The meaning of contract of sale says a contract of sale is a contract whereby seller either transfers or agree to transfer the property in the goods to the buyer for a price. It includes both sale and agreement to sell. The thumb rules which you have to remember. In sale, the ownership is transferred immediately, but in agreement to sell, the ownership will be transferred in some future date on fulfillment of certain conditions. The essential elements are there must be two parties, one is buyer and second is seller. Number two, there must be some goods as a subject matter. What are those? Subject matter means to say for which a contract can be entered. Number three, there might be either transfer of ownership immediately in case of sale or in future date in case of agreement to sell. And number four, there must be some price as a subject matter, sorry, as a consideration. The consideration for contract can be partially in money and partially in goods. All must exist, there must be all essential elements of valid contract. Now, what are goods? Goods includes the following. All growing crops and grasses. Goods in India includes the following. All movable properties are goods. Stocks and shares are goods. Growing crops and grasses are goods which can be cut and served separately from the land. All tangible and intangible assets are goods, and old and rare coins which are not used as a medium of exchange are goods. It does not include money by itself and actionable claims. Clear? Great. The contract of sale may be formed in the following manner. Sorry. We have seen this. Now, types of goods. Number one, existing goods. Existing goods are those goods which are in existence with the seller at the time of formation of contract of sale. This could be specific goods which are identified and agreed at the time of formation of sale. Unascertained goods which are not identified at the time of formation of sale. Ascertained goods which are set aside after the formation of sale. Future goods which are not in custody of the seller at the time of making the contract. It will be either produced or acquired after the formation of contract of sale. Contingent goods are kind of future goods, the performance of which depends upon a contingency which may or may not happen. The price of goods, generally it is fixed by an agreement. It may be fixed by a third party. If that third party fails to fix an price, then it becomes void. Okay, in this, couple of things which we have not mentioned. Number one, document of title and document showing title, and in the way in which the contract of sale can be formed. Contract of sale can be formed in the following manner. Number one, immediate payment of price and delivery later, immediate delivery of goods and the price later. Both can be postponed, both can be simultaneously done, and both can be in installments. Next, document of title. Document of title is a document which shows the position of the goods with a third party, instructing the third party to transfer the goods as per the order. It includes Waffinger certificates, dock warrants, railway receipts, etc. Document showing title means to show which shows the ownership of the goods, example share certificate. Clear? In case of sale, the ownership is immediately transferred, but in case of agreement to sell, the ownership is transferred in future date. Next, conditions and warranties. Conditions are such important stipulations which forms the main purpose of the contract and the breach of which gives a right to terminate the contract and claim damages. Breach of warranty is treated as a collateral to the breach of condition, and it gives only one right, that is to claim damages. They cannot put an end to the contract. Implied conditions are condition as to title, condition as to sale by description, sale by sample and description, quality of fitness of buyer's purpose. Again, this is important. 2-mark question. Where the goods are sold by, where the person tells about his requirement and the goods are sold. Goods must be reasonably fit for a particular purpose if the buyer has disclosed the purpose for which goods are required and relied upon the seller's skill or judgment. Am I clear? Next, condition as to merchantability means to say it should not be having any defect, and condition as to wholesomeness generally deals with human consumptions. You cannot sell the medicine after expiry date or a food which have expired the dates. Next, caveat emptor, it means to say let the buyer be aware. It is not the duty of the seller to disclose the facts unless until asked. But this caveat emptor does not apply in the following circumstances. Number one, where the goods are sold with sample, with description, where the buyer has relied on the skill of the seller. Generally, they are all exception to implied conditions. Am I clear? Now, breach of condition can be treated as breach of warranty, but breach of warranty cannot be treated as breach of condition. That is a thumb rule. Remember. And when can breach of condition be treated as breach of warranty? Number one, if the condition is expressly or impliedly eliminated. Number two, if the buyer wants to treat condition as warranty. Number three, where it is expressed there. Am I clear? Can we move on? 2 यूनिट खत्म हो चुके हैं. My dear class, are you with me? Six to 8 marks from this particular chapter, and it is going at a rapid pace. Great. I think we will discuss this partnership and then straight away jump into the question answers. I'm not able to see the Josh with you all. Are you with me? Great. Super. Thank you for acknowledging that you are still with me. Great. Can we start? Transfer of ownership. My dear friend, Sale of Goods Act में सबसे important rule याद रखना. For transfer of ownership, payment of price and delivery of goods are immaterial. Whether the buyer is owner or not does not depend on whether the delivery of goods is being made or not, or if the price is paid or not. Am I clear? Ownership is different from payment and delivery. So can you do for Companies Act also? I will do better, don't worry. Clear? Can we proceed? Great. When is the ownership transferred? Generally, the ownership is transferred as soon as the contract is made in case of sale. In case of specific goods, and if it is unconditional, it is transferred immediately. Where the contract is of specific goods but goods not in deliverable state, then the goods must have to be put in deliverable state and the buyer should have the notice thereof. Where the contract of specific goods is in deliverable state but the seller has to do something to ascertain the price, then he should complete that ascertainment and then the buyer should have the notice thereof. In case of unascertained goods, the ownership will be transferred on fulfillment of two conditions. Number one, the goods must be ascertained, and number two, it must be appropriated. Ascertainment is a unilateral act and appropriation is a bilateral act. When the goods are sent on approval, the ownership is transferred when the buyer signifies his approval, does some act as an owner, or he fails to return the goods within a fixed or a reasonable time. When is the risk pass? The risk passes with the ownership. Generally, it is at the time of sale. But the person who has to bear the loss depends upon the circumstances. If it is a delayed delivery by the buyer will bear the loss. If it is an agreement between the buyer and the seller that the ownership will pass on fulfillment of such condition, then it will be passed later, even though it is a sale. Am I clear? The general rule says risk is with the owner. Generally, it is passed as soon as the sale is made. But two exceptions. Number one, delayed delivery, and number two, intention of the parties. Am I clear? Sale by non-owner. Generally, a non-owner cannot transfer the ownership to the new buyer. But there are exceptions to the rule. Again, important question from the examination point of view. Sale of Goods Act may difference between sale and agreement to sell. Exception to the rule, the non-owners cannot sell the goods. Types of goods, these are, and condition and warranty, implied conditions. These are the very, very important and critical questions. Clear? Sale by mercantile agent, provided he has sold the goods with a valid document. It is done in the ordinary course of business. It must be done in a good faith, and the buyer should not have a knowledge of the default authority of the seller. Joint owner, he is in the possession of the joint owner. A person having the possession under voidable contract. This sale must happen before the contract is rescinded. The buyer must have got it in the good faith, and it should not have a knowledge. See, this last 2 point, buyer should act in good faith, and he must not have the knowledge that the seller does not have an authority to sell is common in every aspect. Number 5, sale by possession, seller in the possession of goods after sale. Sale by buyer in possession of goods before the ownership is transferred. Sale by unpaid seller, and sale by finder of lost goods. Sale by pawnee or pledgee, sale by official receiver, and sale by owner by estoppel. So these are the exceptions. Yaad rakhna beta, at least 6 to 8 points you have to remember to secure that 6 marks. First, you have to write the general rule. General rule says no one can pass a better title than what he himself has. If I am not the owner, I cannot transfer the ownership to the others. But the exceptions include sale by mercantile agent, sale by estoppel, sale by official receiver, sale by pawnee, sale by unpaid seller, sale by person having the possession of goods before the sales, sale by the buyer having the possession before sale, sale by seller having possession after sale. All these are exceptions. Am I clear? Next comes delivery. Delivery means to say voluntary transfer of possession of goods from one person to another. Here you cannot write seller to buyer, my dear friends. That will be a wrong answer. Delivery का फंडा है one person to another. Clear? Actual delivery. This delivery can be of 3 types. Number 1, actual delivery, where the goods are actually handed over to the buyer. Number 2, symbolic delivery, when the goods are bulky in nature and cannot be physically transferred. They are transferred by a symbol, example delivery of key. Number 3, constructive delivery, where one person who is having the possession of the goods but not the ownership of the goods acknowledges the buyer that he holds the goods on his behalf, is called constructive delivery. Place of delivery, it must be as per agreement. Otherwise, in general circumstances, in case of sale where the goods are in existence, in case of future goods where the goods will be manufactured. Time of delivery, as per the agreement. If agreement is silent, then it will be within reasonable time. Delivery of wrong quantity, where the goods are sent and they are of wrong quantity. It could be either excess, it could be either less, or which is short, or it could be equal, or it could be mixed. In case of excess delivery, the buyer has 3 rights: accept all, reject all, or accept the quantity contracted. In case of short, 2 rights: accept all, reject all. In case of actual delivery, only 1 right: accept all. In case of mixed delivery, again 3 rights: accept all, reject all, or accept the quantity contracted. Where the wrong quantity is of negligible nature, he has only 1 right, that is accept all. All the expenses of putting the goods in deliverable states will go to should be borne by the seller. Cost of delivery should be borne by the buyer. Whenever the delivery of goods are done, if it is a part delivery with an intention of delivering whole, it will be treated as whole delivery. If the intention is to separate from the whole, it will be treated as part delivery. Delivery to carrier generally means to say it is delivery to the buyer, provided they are unconditional. the seller should not reserve the right of disposal. The buyer is said to have accepted the delivery if he intimates the seller that he has accepted the goods, he does something to either sell, resell, or pledge, or he has not informed the buyer or not informed the seller that he has rejected the goods within a reasonable time. Unpaid seller. An unpaid seller is a person who has not received the payment of the price after the expiry of the fixed period of credit sale. This unpaid seller is a person who has not been paid after even the credit period has got elapsed. Clear? Now, this unpaid seller has two rights. One is right against the goods and right against the buyer personally. Right against the goods include right of lien, right of stoppage, and right of resell. Right of lien is a possessionary right. He can have the possession of the goods even after the sales. He will act as an agent of the buyer. If he has given away the delivery of goods in part, he has lost the lien right. Right of stoppage means to say right to regain the possession of the goods. Again, two terms: lien, retain; stoppage, regain. Where the goods are put in transmission and before it reaches the buyer, if the seller takes away the goods from the transport company, it is called right of stoppage. The right of stoppage can be done only and only when the goods are in transport. The buyer has not taken the delivery of the goods. Effects of subsale or pledge by the buyer. The unpaid seller right of lien or stoppage in transit is not affected by the sale or disposal of the goods by the buyer. Where the subsale or the disposition of the buyer has been done with the consent of the seller, where the document of the title has been given without a condition to it. So this difference between right of lien and right of stoppage is important. Not necessarily, but conceptually, yes. Because unpaid seller is an important question. And under unpaid seller, you have two rights: right against the goods and right against the buyer personally. Right of resale. Generally, the seller reserves the right of resale. If he does not reserve the right of resale, then he must give an appropriate notice to the buyer. After receiving the appropriate notice, still the buyer does not act, he can resell. In case of resale, there could be a profit, there could be a loss. In case of profit, the seller enjoys it. In case of loss, he can claim those damages from the old buyer. Am I clear? Right of seller and buyer. The unpaid seller's right against the buyer. Number one, suit for price, suit for interest, suit for damages, and suit for cancellation of contract. What are the rights of buyer against the seller? Suit for non-delivery, suit for specific performance, suit for breach of warranty, suit for interest if the advance has been given and the goods have not been delivered, and right to treat the contract either as operative or rescinded after the due date. Auction sale is a public sale where the intending buyers, known as bidders, come at one common place to outbid each other. In this, the following are the important terms which you have to remember. Number one, reserve price. It is subject to the lowest price below which the bid cannot be cancelled. A seller can reserve the right to bid, provided it is not with an intention to increase the price. The seller can appoint only one person as a buffer. The bidder can always withdraw the sale before the completion of sale. Damping is damping is nothing but stopping a person to enter into a contract by giving an unfair disclosure of the goods. Knockout agreement is where the bidders come together and try to knock out the competition among themselves. Clear? Meaning of sale notified by the seller. Kidhar hai bhai? Sir, is pretending bidding gives the same meaning of knockout? No. Pretended bidding is to increase. Knockout is to decrease. Clear? So my dear friends, it's 11 o'clock. We'll take a break for 15 minutes. 11:15 we will come back with Partnership Act, followed by LLP and Companies Act. So that will take 1 hour, and in the last 1 hour, we will proceed with one of the question paper discussion. So meet you after 15 minutes. Stay tuned, and let's get connected at 11:15. Dear students, welcome back. Can we get started? Do you think the session was good in the morning? 2 hours, 2 acts done. Now balance 3 hours, 1 hour, it will be done. And last 40-45 minutes, we'll be discussing some important questions. No response, मतलब सुबह अच्छा नहीं था और अच्छा था. Guys, I hope you are back. Good. It was helpful. It was great. It was अच्छा था. Good, sir. Really productive, sir. Good. So, dear friends, the intention was one day before the examination is just to make you realize कि ये इतनी सारी चीजें हैं, फटाफट याद कर लो करके. Correct? So that at least tomorrow suddenly when you see this question in the examination, the first page you should remember is Mahipal sir ने बोला था, आ गया, मजा आ गया. Yes or no? How many of you will send me a text or call me tomorrow after the exam? Okay, let's see. It will be great, beta. It will be easy. Don't worry. Good. So can we get started? You don't have to be scared, beta. You have to be confident. That's all. Nothing is going to go wrong. See the question, close your eyes, recall things, write it down, and that's it. Done. Clear? Good. So, dear friends, let's start with Indian Partnership Act 1932. Meaning of partnership is relationship between two or more persons who have agreed to share the profits of the business carried on by all or any one of them acting for all. Here, whenever, as in the initial class morning, I told very important terms, carried on by all, any one of them acting for all. These are the key terms which you cannot miss. Clear? The essential elements are there must be at least two competent persons to carry on the contract. There must be an agreement which is either implied or expressed. Can a partnership be formed on the basis of status? Sure. Can a partnership be formed for some charity purpose? No. Can only one of the partners share all the profit of the business? What is the true test of partnership? I'm getting right answers. Come on. What is the true test of partnership? Yes, mutual agency is the true test of partnership. What is the cardinal principle of partnership? Cardinal principle of agency, of partnership. It is mutual agency. What is the prima facie of a partnership? Prima facie is sharing of profits. Sharing of profits. Great. Can two companies form a partnership firm? Can two companies form a partnership firm? Answer is yes, they are artificial persons. Great. Can two firms form a new partnership firm? No, firm is not given a status of being called as artificial person. Great. Can there be a minor at the time of formation of a partnership firm? No, because minor can be admitted only to the existing firm. Great. Let's move on. What is a mutual agency? One acting for all or all acting for one. Clear? Individually in a partnership firm, each partner is called as a partner. Person have entered into partnership with one another are collectively called as firm, and the firm name under which the business is carried on is called firm name. The maximum limit as per Companies Act 1956 is 10 and 20 in banking and non-banking. As per Companies Act, it should not exceed 50. If the number exceeds beyond 50, it will become illegal association. Next, a partnership has no separate legal entity apart from its partner. The true test of partnership is their mutual agency. Cases where partnership does not exist are: number one, joint owners sharing the revenues, sharing of profits but not having mutual agencies are lender of money to the firm, widow or a deceased partner who have received share of profits, servant or agent receiving remuneration. 4, a person who receives share of profit in consideration of sale of goodwill or business. These are considered to be the persons who are not a partners. Generally, HUF is not a partnership firm, and the business between husband and wife is also generally not treated as partnership firm. Am I clear? Property of the firm: every property purchased by use of firm's money is treated to be partnership firm. The property of the firm. What is a deed? Deed is a document which contains the term of the partnership as agreed among the partners. It is duly stamped as per Stamps Act, duly signed by all the partners, and it is submitted. Any changes or alterations depends upon what kind of changes. It could be just an information or re-registration. Is partnership firm compulsory to be registered under India? It is optional. Great. When can they get registered? Either at the time of formation or any time after thereon. What will be the effective date of registration of the firm? Once all the partners have signed the partnership deed, they go to a place called registrar of firm, and where the registrar of firm, after checking everything, enters the name of the firm in a register called registrar of firm. That date will be treated as effective date of partnership firm. Am I clear? Now, if partnership is not a compulsory to be registered, then these are the following disadvantages. Number one, a partner cannot file a suit against the firm or other partners. A partner cannot file a suit against the third party, and a partner cannot claim a set of exceeding rupees 100. But these are the following things which are not affected. The partners have a right the partners can claim set of rupees less than 100. So there is a fees of rupees 100 every year for late registration of firm. Can you explain this? At this junction, irrelevant, Chirag. Kindly quit and move forward. Rights of partner to sue for the dissolution of the firm, accounts of the firm, right to enforce against otherwise other than the contract, right of a third party can always file a case against the partners, and the official receiver can also file a case against the third partner against the partnership firm. Types of partnership, again, it depends upon number one, the important thing is partnership at will, which is created at will and can be discharged at the will, wherein there is no expiry date given. It can be dissolved by any of the partner by giving a written notice to all of the partners. Particular partnership is carried on for a particular venture. This dissolution generally happens on the completion of such venture. But if that partnership continues to continue after the expiry of such venture, it will be treated as partnership at will. The mutual rights and obligation remains the same. On the basis of business, it could be for a particular venture, or it could be general partnership. Next, types of partner: active partner who takes active part in the conduct of the business, sleeping partner who does not take active part into the business but his identity is not known to the outside world, nominal partner who lends his name to the firm. He does not have any he neither contributes capital, does not have any part in the day-to-day operation of the firm. Partners in profit only are those partners who shares only profit of the business. They are not liable for the losses internally. But an outside party, outside people can file a case and he will be liable for the same. Sub-partner is a partner with whom the partner agrees to share the profit of the business. Partner by estoppel and holding out are the partners who by their act agree to be a partner without being a partner, or who allows the partnership firm to take their name without being a partner to that name. Now, minor partner is a person who has not attained the age of majority. He can be admitted only and only for the benefits of the firm of the business. His rights is to share the profit of the business and also to the property of the firm, but he is not liable personally to any third party. He has access to books. He cannot be declared insolvent. He has a right to file a suit of share of profit, etc. Minor's duty to give public notice. Within the 6 months of attaining majority, the minor has to decide whether to continue or to not continue into the firm. If he continues to in the firm, then he has to give the public notice stating that I'm wanting to continue. If he does not want to continue, he has to give the public notice stating that he does not want to continue. If he fails to do so, he will be deemed to be a partner and he will be liable for all those acts done, not from the date of attaining majority, but from retrospectively. Rights and duties of the partners. Mandatory rights are given here. To carry on the business of the firm to the greatest common advantage, to be just and faithful, to render the true accounts and full disclosure, and to indemnify for the losses anything done. General duties include duty to attend the duty carefully, not to claim remuneration for taking part. Section 13 A, B, C, D, E. How many of you remember? Section 13A, B, C, D, E. Section 13A talks about no remuneration. 13B, profit sharing equality. 13C, no interest on capital. 13D is not for drawing. It is for loans and advances where you have to pay 6% interest. Simple interest per annum on loans and advances, and 13E is for drawings. They cannot hold the property in their own name. They have to account for the personal profits made out of the transaction in the firm's name. They have to account or pay from the profit of the competing business. These are the general duties of the partners. General rights of the partners include they can take part in the conduct of the business, to express the opinion, to decide the matters, right to have access and to inspect the copy of the books, right to share profits equally, right to claim interest on loans, right to be indemnified in ordinary and proper conduct of the business, in doing act in emergencies, right to prevent introduction of new partner with the consent of all existing partners, right to retire by giving his consent in writing to all the partners, he does not have a right to be expelled. The outgoing partners has a right to start a competing business, but he should not use the firm name or represent him the firm's thing. Right to share subsequent property profits, and right to dissolve the partnership firm with the consent of all the partners. Authorities. Partner's authority means the capacity to bind the firm by his acts. Implied authorities include to purchase of kind that are used in the business of, to purchase goods of kind which are in the due course of the business, to sell goods of the firm, to settle accounts with the person dealing with the firm, to receive payments and issue a receipt, to engage servants, to engage lawyers, to borrow money for the purpose of the business, to pledge the goods of the firm as security for borrowing, to draw, endorse bills of exchange and other negotiable instruments. In case of in the absence of any usage, custom or trade or the contract, the implied authority of the partner does not empower them. These are scope outside implied authorities. Number one, to submit a dispute to arbitrator relating to the business of the firm. These rules will apply only and only if there is no consent available. With the consent, they can change this rule. But there are certain rules which cannot be changed. To open a bank account on behalf of the firms in the partner's name cannot be done. To compromise any claim or portion of the claim by the firm, to withdraw a suit or proceeding files on behalf of the firm, to admit any liability in the suit of proceeding against the firm, to acquire immovable property on behalf of the firm, to transfer immovable property on behalf of the firm, to enter into the partnership on behalf of the firm. The partner can do any of the above mentioned act if he is expressly authorized to do act. If not, he cannot do the above mentioned 8 points. No liability of the firm to the third party for the restricted acts of the partner. A firm is not liable to the third party for the above mentioned restricted act of the partner, whether or not person dealing with the firms is known the restriction or not. Then there could be restriction by mutual agreement. By a mutual agreement, you can restrict a partner from doing a particular day-to-day activity of the business. In case such partner is restricted and the outside person knows about this restriction, then he should not deal with that person. If he does not know about this, then it will be treated as it is done on behalf of the partnership. Any notice given to one of the active partner is equal to notice given to all the partners. Every partner is jointly and severally liable for all those acts done when within the partners. Any wrongful act done by a partner or an omission done by a partner, he will be personally liable. Firm's liability in the following cases: misappropriation by the partner, where partner has received some money and used it for himself. According to the third party, the firm is according to the firm, the third party is discharged, but internally the partner is not discharged. Partner's authority in emergency. Again, this is an important 2-mark question. Whenever a partner does any act in an emergency, then he must, first of all, when he can do, he must do it to protect the firm from the losses and act as a prudent man who undertakes the similar circumstances in his own. Once the person has done all those acts in an emergency, he is eligible for reimbursement or indemnity from the firm. Reconstitution of a firm. The term reconstitution means to say the relationship between the partners have changed, but the firm is carrying on. This reconstitution can happen in case of introduction of a partner, which is incoming partner, outgoing partner, expulsion of a partner, insolvency of a partner, death of a partner, and transfer of partner's interest. So let us discuss this little bit in detail, the rights and duties of incoming partner, outgoing partner, expulsion partner. So because it is again an important funda for your examination. What are the rights and obligations of incoming partner? Incoming partner will not be liable for any act done before he is admitted to to the firm. If at all the incoming partner agrees to share the acts done previously, then he will be liable for those acts also, provided such information is given to all the other stakeholders like creditors and debtors. Outgoing partner. Outgoing partner will be liable for all those acts done before his retirement, or all those acts which have started and not completed. He will not be liable for those acts which are done after his retirement, provided he has given the public notice. If he fails to give the public notice, he will be treated as a partner by estoppel or holding out. Expulsion means to say throwing out. None of the partners can be expelled in a general course of business. A partner may be expelled provided the other partners reserve the right to expel, or second, if they have given an appropriate notice of a person's misconduct, then he can be expelled. Whenever a partner is expelled, he has a right to claim his position back by going to the court of law and proving that this expulsion was not in the good faith. Whenever a partner is declared insolvent, he will be no more partner from the date of insolvency issued by the court. All those acts done before, his official receiver will be liable to the extent of property available. After that, neither official receiver nor the insolvent partner will be liable for the acts of the partner. Death of the partner. In case of death, the legal representative will be liable to the extent of property left. In case of profits unclaimed, he can claim the profits from the firm. And if the firm fails to pay the profit and the capital of the deceased partner, then they can claim interest and share of profit without being a partner in the firm. Whenever a partner transfers his interest in the firm without the consent of all the partners, it will not be treated as a valid transfer of interest. Now, what are the rights during the continuation of partnership? He is entitled to share the profits, account the profit, enter in the conduct of the business, requires the accounts to inspect the books of the firm. On dissolution of the firm, the retiring partner transferring of the rights, the share of assets of transferring partner, and on account as from the date of dissolution for the purpose of ascertaining the share. Dissolution. The term dissolution stands for discontinuation. Whenever the firm is said to be dissolved, the relationship between all the partners comes to an end. See, there are two kinds of dissolution. Dissolution of partnership, which is reconstitution, and dissolution of firm, which is putting an end and it comes to an end. A firm can be dissolved in any of the manner by mutual consent of the parties, by compulsory dissolution, by happening of uncertain contingencies like death, expulsion, completion of a venture or expiry of time, or by giving a notice. But sometimes the partners will not be wanting to dissolve and few other partners will want to dissolve. Then in such case, they will approach the court. The court might decide the matter on the following ground. Number one, if one of the active partner becomes insane. Second, if one of the active partners become personally incapable of conducting the business. Third, there is a misconduct by the other partners. Fourth, there is a persistent breach of duty by the partners. 5, where the whole of the interest is transferred to the third party. 6, there are perpetual losses. And 7th, any other ground based on that. Am I clear? Next, partner's right of lien. My dear friend, please understand, when an incoming partner comes into a firm by paying goodwill and the firm is dissolved before expiry of such expected period, then he can claim the return of premium on premature of winding up. Clear? Liability of a partner. Settlement of accounts. Loss, including deficiency of capital, are to be paid in the following manner. First, payout from the profits, then from the capital, and lastly by the partners individually in the profit sharing ratios. Application of assets. Assets should be applied in making first the outsiders liability, which is debts of the third party, then insiders liability, which are loans and advances, then it should be transferred to the capital account in the capital contribution ratio, then it should be distributed among the partners in the profit sharing ratio. Am I clear? Public notice. When is the public notice is mandatory to be given? Number 1, on expulsion or retirement. Number 2, on dissolution of firm. And number 3, on election of becoming a partner by a minor partner after attaining majority. When it is not required to be given? On the death of the partner or insolvency, because they both are one and they are public notice by themselves, by the way. How the public notice can be given? It can be given in official gazette and at least in one of the vernacular newspaper. So these are the various rules with respect to partnerships. Any doubt, or can we discuss those doubts during discussion of question paper? Dear friends, come on, no answers from your side. Should we continue with LLP and Companies Account? Sorry, Companies Act. Good. Let me share one of the PDFs. I know this PDF is available with you all. Great. LLP Act 2008. My dear friends, very, very important to remember in LLP is the dates: 12th December, 7th January, 2008 and 2009 respectively. The LLP Act is a mixture of partnership and companies. The important points from the advantages of company and the advantages of partnership has been taken to form an LLP. LLP generally has 4 schedules. In absence of an agreement, this schedule will come into the picture. Number 1 schedule. Schedule 1 talks about mutual rights and obligations of a partners in an LLP. Schedule 2 talks about conversion of a firm into LLP. Schedule 3 talks about conversion of conversion of private into LLP, and Schedule 4 talks about conversion of unlisted public company into LLP. MC and ROC are entrusted to administrate the LLP Act, and the central government has an authority to frame the rules of LLP and amend them from time to time. Clear? All the Schedule 4s? Great. What are the characteristics of LLP? Again, this is an important question from your examination point of view. LLP is a body corporate. Mutual agency, all the partners are agent of LLP. They are not the partner of other partners. LLP provides flexibility to partners to devise the agreement. It is an artificial person with a common seal. Liability is limited to the partner's agreed contribution. LLP are entitled to manage business, but only designated partners are responsible for legal compliances. There should be minimum 2 partners, 2 designated partners, and out of which one should be a resident in India. Maximum, there is no limit. And LLP is only for profit making, and it cannot be for the charitable purpose. It is easy to form. All partners enjoy limited liability, flexibility structure, and easy to dissolve. What are the incorporation of LLP? There must be minimum 2 persons who have subscribed to the document. Incorporation document should be filed with the prescribed fees. A statement along with the incorporation document may be made by the advocate, CA or CS, and by one of these names subscribed to it. Incorporation document shall be in the form of prescribed manner, and it should be address of a register office, name, address, partners, designated partners details should be provided into the same. If there is a false representation in the documentation, then there is a fine of 10,000 which may extend up to 5 lakh and an imprisonment up to 2 years. Incorporation by registration. Please listen here. Register the incorporation document. Give the certificate the LLP incorporation by its specified name. Registration accept the statement delivered under section level sufficient evidence. Certificate issued and certificate to be conclusive evidence. Every LLP shall have a registered office to whom all the communication has to go. A document may be served as a registered office. LLP may change the place and registered office as per the condition prescribed. It might conversion by LLP. Fine of LLP at his partner is 2,000 and maximum 25,000. Name. The name shall end with LLP. The name should be undesirably by central government or identical that other than LLP or registered trademark. Reservation of the name. When you apply, the name should be reserved, and this reserved name will be kept to you for the period of 3 months. If the name is identical or nearest resembling, the central government may direct you to change the name. If LLP fails to comply, then fine of 10,000 to maximum of 5 lakh. And for the designated partner, it will be 10,000 to maximum of 1 lakh. Step of incorporation. This is very important. Number 1, name reservation. After the name reservation, within 3 months, it has to be incorporated. After incorporation is done by forming a file form E2, and LLP agreement should be formed within the 30 days of incorporation. Relations of partners. Mutual rights and duties of the partners are governed by its agreement, if not Schedule 1. An agreement made by incorporation must be ratified by all partners to impose obligation. Mutual rights and duties will be determined there. Person may have been ceased to be an LLP in absence. A person should be ceased is on the death, dissolution, unsoundness, and insolvency. Registration of changes in partnership. To inform the change in the name or the address within 15 days. When person becomes partner, files notice within 30 days. Notice to be filed with prescribed fees. If conversion of designated if contravention, designated partner will be given a fine of 2,000 to 25,000. If LLP may not file notice, any person of the partner may file it with the register. Unlimited liability in case of fraud. If any fraud done, then there is an unlimited liability of the partners, and punishment will go up to imprisonment of 2 years and fine from 50,000 to 5 lakh. There is a concept of whistleblowing, where at the time of employees, if there is an investigation, the employees can speak out the pros and cons, sorry, the facts of the cases, and they can whistleblow stating that this is the reason why these are happening. Financial disclosure, they have to maintain the books of accounts, maintain the books of account for each year on cash basis, accrual basis, and double entry system with a registered office. They have to not only file the annual returns, but they also have to file the accounts of solvency within the 6 months of the financial year. Okay. Who is a designated partner? What are his rights? Come on, tell me, anybody. Who can be a designated partner? This is a question. Tak, 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 fatafat. Minimum, how many designated partners are required in an LLP? 2. Out of 2, how many should be resident in India? Okay. What do you mean by the term resident in India? There should be one resident in India. He should have lived in India for at least 182 days in the preceding financial year. Great. Can a company be a resident of India? Sorry, can a company be a designated partner? Yes, but he has to appoint a nominee. And that nominee should be an artificial person, or a, should it be an artificial person or a natural person? Natural person. Great. Okay. Who are responsible for day-to-day operations of an LLP? All the partners. Great. Who are responsible for statutory compliances of LLP? Designated partners. Great. In case the designated partners reduces to 1 and the firm continues for the more than period of 6 months, then in such case, all the partners will be treated as designated partners. Important rule, please write it down. Where the designated partners reduce to less than 2 and the firm continues the business for 6 months, then all the partners will be deemed to be designated partners. Clear? My dear friend, in LLP, there could be few questions which are very, very important. Number 1, characteristics of LLP. Number 2, designated partner. Number 3, process of formation of LLP. What you have to write? First is name reservation. After name reservation, within 3 months, they have to get incorporated. Within incorporation, within 30 days, they have to file the documents. Am I clear? And the last important question from the LLP point of view is difference between LLP and a partnership firm. Clear? And the way in which LLP can be dissolved. Number 1, voluntarily. Number 2, by the act. By the act, then it can happen by if the number of members reduced below 2 and it continues more than 6 months. If LLP is not able to pay the debt, LLP is acting against the interest of India, failed to file the register for 5 continuous years, and at the option of the court, the LLP can be dissolved. Am I clear? Hello, am I clear? Company. Can we proceed? Company means company incorporated under this act or any previous company's law. The features of company include separate legal entity, which is the case law which determines separate legal entity. Very, very important case law. Salomon versus Salomon and Company. Great. Perpetual cessation, limited liability, and artificial judicial person. Next comes corporate will. The term corporate will refers to the concept that the member of companies are shielded from the liability connected to the company's action. It is a curtain between the members running the show and the public. This corporate will can be lifted in the following cases. If the company is trading with enemy, where the corporate entity is used to evade taxes, where the companies or other companies have subsidiary to act as an agent to avoid legal obligations, where the device of incorporation are adopted for some legal or improper purposes. So these are the various circumstances under which court will lift the corporate will and dig into the person who is really running the show. Companies can be classified on the basis of liability, members, control, capital, and other companies. On the basis of liability, company limited by share. The company limited by shares, the liability of the shareholders are only to the extent of unpaid share capital. Company limited by guarantee, the contribution is only to the extent of the guaranteed amount. This company limited by guarantee could be with share capital or without share capital. If it is with share capital, the extent of share capital can be claimed anytime during the process of the company, but the guarantee amount can be claimed only during the winding up. Unlimited company, the company's liability, the members' liability is unlimited like partnership. On the basis of members, 1%, OPC, that is a maximum 1%, minimum 1%, private, maximum 200, minimum 2, small companies, minimum 2, maximum 200, and public company, minimum 7 and maximum no limit. On the basis of control, we have holding companies and subsidiary companies and associate company. Holding companies are those companies which holds the majority stake more than 50% in any of the company or through its subsidiaries. Subsidiary company is a company in which the majority of the stake is held by the holding company. Associate companies are those companies which has more than 20%, less than 50% shares, and they can influence the decision of the company. On the basis of capital, we have listed company, unlisted company, listed companies which are listed in the stock exchange, unlisted companies which are not listed in the stock exchange. Other companies include government companies where more than 50%, 51% of the shares are held by central government or state government or combination of central and state or more state governments. Next, Section 8 companies. Section 8 companies are those companies which are formed for a charitable objective. The purpose is to promote commerce, art, and everything. They will not have any suffix like limited or private limited. They have to use as a association and other things. This grant to do for charitable purpose is granted by central government. This central government has authority to revoke the license given if such Section 8 companies violate the purpose for which it is made. This company has not to use the suffix. Great. Foreign companies are those which are incorporated outside India and has the presence of business within India, either in electronic mode or physical mode. Dormant companies are companies which are formed and we are not active. They don't have significant accounting transactions. Nidhi company is to promote savings in the business, and public financial companies includes your LIC and other companies. Mode of registration of the company. First, promoters, the name under which his name is put in the prospectus. He becomes the identity of the company and indemnify the company of the annual returns, has the control over the affairs of the company, and who directs and instructs the board of directors in the act of the business. Number 1, file the document. Number 2, issue the certificate of registration. Allotment of sin, maintenance of all document, and furnishing false information is not allowed. Effects of registration, becomes a legal person. Types of capital: nominal capital, authorized, issued, subscribed, called up, paid up. Types of capital: we have equity share capital with a uniform voting right, without differential voting right, and preference share capital. Preference share capital gets a preference in case of winding up. MOA is a charter of a company. It talks about the fundamental rules of the company under which the company has to work. It acts as a contract made between company. So any contract done by a company beyond the powers mentioned in its MOA acts as an ultra virus. AOA is a bylaw. It is more of an internal document It describes the day-to-day operation of the company. Doctrine of constructive notice. It is presumed that every person concerned has only read this document but has also understood this document in proper meaning. Doctrine of indoor management is a very, very important question. Franklin rule. Please make sure you remember this. See, when I will give you a typical example, remember this concept very, very clearly. Assuming Aditya has to enter a contract with, say, Mahipal and Company. Mahipal and Company's MOA is a public document available. So whenever Aditya has to enter a contract with Mahipal, it is presumed that Aditya is aware of what is the shareholders, what is happening, everything, because it is a public document. And if he has not read it, it is his problem. That is called constructive notice. Now, assuming Aditya is an investment banker, and one of the clause in MOA stated that directors of the company can raise external debts from any of the financial institute by passing a special resolution. Aditya is aware that there is a director has a right to claim, right to raise the funds by passing a special resolution. Now, special resolution becomes an internal document. Assuming Aditya paid 5 crore rupees to the director and there is no special resolution formed. Now, can I say, hello, no special resolution form, get lost, you should have read the constructive notice. This notice says I can, but special resolution has to be formed. Law says no, special resolution is an internal document and it is assumed that that has to be taken care. If it is not taken care, it's a mistake of the company, not the mistake of the investor. Am I clear? He can recover the money. Here ends all the 5 chapters. Great. Should we start question and answer? We'll go from the reverse angle. We'll start from company's law. Is it okay? Because contract, I assume that everybody would have learned a lot of times. Sure. So let me just open the file. Yes, my dear, able to see the screen? Flora Fauna Limited was registered as a public company. There are 230 members in the company as noted. Directors and their relatives 190, employees 15, ex-employees 10. 5 couple holding joint stocks in the name of husband and wife and others 5. The board of directors of the company proposed to convert it into a private company. Also advise whether the reduction in number of members is necessary. Come on. If 2 or more persons hold shares, it is treated as 1. 200 members, it can be no. Very good. Let's quickly get on to the answers. Private company means a company having a minimum paid up share of capital as prescribed and which is in the article, blah, blah, blah. However, where two or more person holds one or more share jointly, they shall, for the purpose of the clause, will be treated as single member. It is further provided that a person who is in employment of the company and the person who has been formerly in employment of the company were members of the company, employees shall not be included as a member of the family. In this instate clause, foreign limited may be converted into private limited company because the total number of the companies are limited to 200. Directors and their relatives 190, 5 couples and other 5. Present and past employees cannot be treated. Second one, if two people are jointly holding shares, it will be treated as one. There is no need of reduction in number of members since the number of the members is just 200 and the maximum limit is 200. Clear? Interesting? Great. F, an SSC, was a wealthy man earning huge income by way of dividend and interest. He formed 3 private companies and agreed with each to hold back of the investment as an agent of them. The dividend and interest income received by the companies were handled back by F from the patent loan. This way, F divides his income into 3 parts in the bid of reduce his tax liability. Decide for the purpose of 3 companies was established whether the legal personality of the 3 companies may be disagreed. Okay. To protect tax, can a corporate will be lifted? Great. The 3 companies were formed by the SSC purely and simply as a member of avoiding tax, and companies were not in more of facet of the SSC himself. Simply split the income into 3 parts to evade the tax. No business was done in the company. Correct? The legal personality of the 3 companies may be disagreed because the companies were formed only to avoid the tax liabilities. Clear? Eh? Some of the creditors of the Pharmaceutical Appliances Limited have complained that the company was formed by the promoters only to defraud the creditors and commemorate the companies for legal provision of the Companies Act 2013. In this contract, they seek to advise as to the meaning of corporate will and when the promoters can be made personally liable for the debts of the company. Again, it's a question on corporate will. What is the thing? They have complained that the company was formed by the promoters only to defraud the creditors. Can the corporate will be lifted? Can the corporate will be lifted? Yes. Yes, sir. Great. Next, explain clearly the doctrine of indoor management. Again, we have just discussed this. Doctrine of indoor management is what? Every person is responsible to read the public document. But exceptions are the following. In detail, my dear friend, request you to just read this in detail. What is doctrine of indoor management? What are the exceptions? And these are the various things. Actual or constructive irregularity, suspicious irregularity, forgery. These are the 3 things which you have to remember. Naveen incorporated a 1-person company, making his sister Navita as a nominee. Navita is living India permanently due to her marriage abroad. Due to the fact she is withdrawing her consent from the nominee in the said 1-person company, taking into consideration the provision of Companies Act, answer the following. If Navita is living India permanently, it is mandatory for her to withdraw her nomination in the said 1-person company. If Navita maintains the status of resident of India after her marriage, then can she continue as the nominee? First one, yes, Navita has to, because the nominee has to be Indian resident. Second, if she is maintaining the residency, then she can still be continued as a nominee. Am I clear? Examine the following, whether they are correct or incorrect, along with the reasons. A company being an artificial person cannot own property and cannot sue or be sued. False, true? Incorrect. Great. A private limited company must have a minimum of 2 members, while a public limited company must have at least 7 members. True? Great. Explain briefly doctrine of ultra-vires. What is doctrine of ultra-vires? doing any act beyond the contractual capacity mentioned in its MOA. Beyond powers. Great. The turnover of OPC for the financial year ended 2019 was about 2.25 crores. Yes, Sunil wanted to invest in OPC, so decide to convert in voluntarily into private limited company. Can Anil do so? Look at this important technical question. Anil formed one-person company for manufacturing electric cars. The turnover of OPC for the financial year was about 2 crores. His friend Sunil wanted to invest in OPC, so they decided to convert into private limited. Yes or no? So first of all, as soon as you cross 2 crore, can you convert that? Can't, because 2 years must be completed. Very good. Then let us read the question. In this instance, Mr. Anil formed OPC on 16th April 2018 and its turnover for the financial year ended March 31st was 2.25 crore. Even though 2 years have not expired from the date of incorporation, since its average annual turnover during the period exceeded 2 crore, he can convert OPC into private limited. My dear friend, there are two rules. Either 2 years should have got elapsed or your turnover should have crossed 2 crores. It is not and, it is or. Dayanand, clear? Again, doctrine of indoor management, they have asked. So these are the various questions which has been frequently asked under Companies Act. Other than these questions, please try to understand what are the various questions which can come. Number one, difference between limited liabilities by shares and by guarantee. When it can be called and when it cannot be called. Number one. Number two, types of companies. Number three, holding and subsidiary. Number four, difference between MOA and AOA. And these were few technical questions based on doctrine of ultravirus, based on the doctrine of indoor management, based on number of members, conversion of private into public or OPC into private, all those things. Am I clear? Yes, no? Great. Other things from the Companies Act, please be very sure while using those terms, directors, employees, ex-employees, all those things. You should be very clear about the rule. It is important that you understand the section number, not important to quote a wrong section number. It is a crime. Clear? Sir, around how many case-based studies you can expect in question paper? Around 3 to 4, my dear friend. Am I clear? Companies Act, the doctrine of corporate will, lifting of corporate will is another important question. So let us summarize what could be the various questions which can be framed. Number one, to start with, features of company, corporate will, types of companies, indoor management, and then you have all these provisions like if the numbers increase, decrease, OPC to this to that. OPC is again an important question. So these are the 6-7 questions around which the question will be framed. Again, the disclaimer is the probability. Am I clear? Yes, no? Can we proceed? The second biggest chapter or I would say the first biggest chapter, Indian Contract Act. Are you with me? Am I audible? Great. Sir, we have to write the facts of tranquil rule for the indoor management question. See, first write what is indoor management, and then write the tranquil rule and the given reasons under which it can come, fraud and other three things which we have discussed. Clear? Great. Dear friends, Indian Contract Act. Again, the first question itself is a case-based question. P sells by auction to Q a horse which P know is of unsound. The horse appears to be sound by P, but P knows the unsoundness of the horse. Is the contract valid in the following circumstances? Number one, if P says nothing about Q, nothing about it to Q, who is P's daughter, who has just come of age. If Q says to P, if you don't deny it, I shall assume that horse is sound. P says nothing. Tell me. ABC. These are the three questions. See here. A, valid. B, void. C, void. Okay. B is void on what ground? A is valid, absolutely understood. B, if P says nothing to Q, yes, fiduciary relationship. And C is void on what ground? Where silence is equivalent to speech. Superb. Can we move on? Acceptance must be absolute and unqualified. What does it mean? The acceptance given by the promisee must be as per the offer, without any change. You can give one example. Again, prescribed mode. The acceptance must be in prescribed mode as mentioned by the offerer. If the mode is not mentioned, it should be in any of the usual mode. Misrepresentation in the matter of contract. Positive, ascertain in manner not warranted to inform the person, breach of duty, and innocently. These are the three important terms which has been used in this particular misrepresentation. Again, this is a case-based question. Sohan induced Suraj to buy his motorcycle, saying that it was a very good condition. How many marks will lose if you don't give example? My dear friends, depends upon which question, what, everything. Assuming the previous question, it is for 2 marks. Then probably 1 mark you might lose, because 2 marks में सिर्फ 2 लाइन लिखना अच्छी बात नहीं, थोड़ा सा एक एग्जांपल दे दो तो समझ में आ जाएगा. 4 marks compulsorily you have to write. So quality and quantity both matters, or only quality? Quality 90%, quantity 10%. Clear? Okay, how many of you read this question? Sohan induces Suraj. Have you read this question? Can Suraj put an end to the contract? No, 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 no. On what ground? Once accepted cannot be rejected. Once rejected cannot be accepted. Accepts to bear the causes. Good. Again, this is a case-based question. X received certain goods from Y and promised to pay 60,000. Later on, X expressed his inability to make the payment. Z, who is known to X, pays rupees 40,000 to Y on behalf of X. However, X was not aware of the payment. Now Y is intending to sue X for the amount of rupees 60,000. Can he do so? He cannot. He can only claim 20,000 rupees. Superb. Can we proceed? No consideration, no contract. Comment. कितना सिंपल्स में लगता है ना क्वेश्चन, लेकिन 6 मार्क का क्वेश्चन है बेटा. No consideration, no contract. Section 25. An agreement made without consideration is void. These are the following exceptions. Number 1, love and affection. Again, write the provisions. Rather than writing 1, 2, 3 in a single line, write it step by step, bullet points. Number 1, it must be registered. Writing based on natural love and affection. The party should be in near and dear relationship. Number 2, compensation for the past voluntary services. Again, write the services rendered should be lawful. It must be voluntarily done. All those important points. Time barred debts. Again, 3 important points. The debt should have been time barred. The promisee is willing to pay. He is willing to seal, sign, and register in the court of law. Am I clear? Explain the meaning of contingent contract and state the rules to such contract. What is contingent contract? You have to first write that. A contract may be absolute or contingent, and contingent contract is if some event collateral to such event does or does not happen. Give an example. Write the circumstances to contingent contract depending upon happening of an event, non-happening of an event, happening of an event with time, non-happening with time, future conduct of third party, and impossible events. Am I clear? Define offer. What are the essentials of offer and how is offer differentiate between invitation to offer? एक क्वेश्चन में 3 क्वेश्चन पूछा है. First, what is defined contract? Then explain the essentials of contract and how is offer differentiate from difference between the invitation to offer. So this particular question is technical, very very technical. ध्यान से सुनना. First definition दो. Definition देने के बाद essential elements you have to write down. After writing the essential elements, give the difference between offer and invitation to offer. Clear? This is technically a 6-mark question. 3 marks or I can say 2 marks. Definition अगर लिखा है तो 2 marks, essential elements 2 marks and difference 2 marks. Clear? How many marks can we expect from Contract Act? Technically speaking, around 20 plus marks. What do you understand from the term consideration and how circumstances under which contract without consideration is valid? Explain. For writing difference, is it compulsory to draw a table? 100% it is good if you can draw the table and write it so that it is to the point. Don't take scale, pencil, pen, do 90-degree angle, don't waste time. Just with the pen, draw, write heading, 1, 2, 3, serial number, this, base of difference, 4 column, serial number 1 on the basis of this is this. Am I clear? What do you understand by the term consideration? What are the circumstances under which contract provision of Indian contract without consideration are valid? Again, look at the question, previous question. No consideration, no contract. They have asked here what is consideration and then they have asked the rules for the exception, natural love and affection. Again, सारी की सारी चीजें यहाँ पे आ रही हैं. Am I clear? Okay. How many of you understood this question? A sends an offer to B to sell his second-hand car for rupees 1,40,000 with the condition that if B does not reply within a week, A shall treat the offer as accepted. Is A correct in his proposition? No. 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 What is the reason? Mere silence is not acceptance. Okay. An offer should not contain a term, the non-compliance of which is assumed to be acceptance. Clear? Great. Again, joint promise. X, Y, and Z jointly borrowed 50,000 from A. The whole of amount was paid by A, repaid to A by Y. decide in the light of Indian Contract Act? Can Y recover contribution from X and Z? Answer is yes. Legal provision relatives of X are liable in case of death of X. Yes, but only to the extent of property left. Can X recover contribution from the assets of from the asset in case Z becomes insolvent? All the three are yes. Next, undue influence के ऊपर क्वेश्चन है. A student was induced by his teacher to sell his brand new car to the later at a lesser than the price purchased to secure more marks in the examination. Accordingly, the car was sold. However, the father of the student presumed him to sue the teacher. State whether the student can sue the teacher. Yes, because he was in a position to dominate the will and he has dominated the will. Look at this. This is a 4-mark question. So they have given the basic provision of undue influence, the answer, and then they told since they were this and there was a domination of will and hence it is applicable. Clear? Quasi contract and the circumstances. What is quasi contract? Salient features and circumstances of quasi contract. Compensation on breach of contract. What are the compensations? Damages, very good. Rescission. बोलो बेटा. Specific order performance, quantum merit, injunction. Come on. Beta, first please try to understand the question. What is the law relating to determination of compensation on breach of contract contained in section 73 of Indian Contract Act? When the contract has been broken, the party who suffers such is called breach and entitled to receive party from who broken the contract. Compensation for any loss or damage caused to him by natural cause arising in the usual course of business for such breach of which party are known to make the contract. Such compensation is not given for any remote or indirect losses, damages. The explanation to the session further provides that the estimating the loss of damage from the breach of contract, that means that existing immediately and inconvenience caused by the non-performance of the contract must be taken into consideration. It will not talk about quantum merit, neither injunction nor rescission. They have just spoken about one thing, which is compensation, which is nothing but damages. You have got the question wrong. Clear? Eh? Great. Explain the type of contract in the following agreements. A coolie in a uniform picks up luggage of A to be carried on by the railway station without being asked by A, and A allowed him to do so. First one क्या है? Implied? Great. Obligation of a finder of lost goods to return them to the true owner. Quasi. Superb. Third, A contracts B, the owner of the factory, for the supply of 10 tons of sugar, but before the supply is effected, the fire caught the factory and everything was destroyed. Void agreement or void contract? ध्यान से देखना, void agreement या void contract? Sure. Is it a void contract? Why not void agreement? Dear friends, please understand, void agreements are void ab initio. But this given question was valid at the time of formation but cannot be executed at the later time. Good. Lot of clarity. Superb. Can we proceed? Only a person who is party to the contract can sue. Explain this statement and describe its exception, if any. Nagasmita is asked, sir, can it be an agreement to sell? Beta, what was the question? Question was, what is the type of contract? And when the question is, what is the kind of contract, can you talk about, is it an agreement to sell? Answer is no, beta, you cannot do that. How many of you understood question number 14? Only a person who is party to contract can sue. What doctrine it talks about? Doctrine of privity of contract. This doctrine of privity of contract says only party to the contract can sue or be sued. No other party can be sued. And what are the exceptions? Family settlement, marriage contract. Yes or no? Great. Next. Explain the circumstances in which the person is deemed to be in position to dominate the will. Again, what are the various three circumstances? If you remember 3 or 4 circumstances: real and apparent authority, fiduciary relationship, old age, illness or sickness, and unconscionable bargains. These are pre-assumption to the domination of will. Am I clear? Wagering agreement. Quantum merit and claim for quantum merit. Dear friend, please read this. When are the circumstances under which quantum merit can be claimed? When the agreement is discovered to be void, where something is done without any intention to do so gratuitously, where there is an express or implied contract to render services but there is no agreement for the remuneration, when one party abandons or refuses to perform the contract, where a contract is divisible in part and the party not in default enjoys the benefit of the part performance, where the contract is divisible for a lump sum is completely performed but badly performed. These are the various circumstances under which quantum merit can be claimed. Important. All these 5-6 points are very, very, very important. Quantum merit. Contingent. I think overall, let's move on to the next chapter, Sale of Goods Act. Look at the first case-based study. For the purpose of making uniform for the employee, Mr. Yadav bought dark blue colored cloth from Vivek, but did not disclose the seller the purpose for the said purchase. When uniform was purchased and used by the employees, the clothes were found unfit. However, there were evidence that the cloth was fit for cap, boots, and carriage lining. Advise Mr. Yadav whether he is entitled for any remedy. No. Doctrine of caveat emptor comes into the picture. He has not asked the person. Superb. Great. Can we move on to the next? Ram sells 200 bags of cloth to Shyam and sends 100 bales by lorry and 100 bales by railway. Shyam received the delivery of 100 bales sent by the lorry, but before the receipt of delivery of the balance sent by the railway, he becomes bankrupt. Ram, being still unpaid, stops the goods in transit. The official receiver of Shyam's insolvency claimed the goods. Decide the case with reference to the provisions of Indian Contract Act. Unpaid seller, right of stoppage is there. Yes. Good. Available to the unpaid seller. This section tells the seller must be unpaid. There must be part of goods in possession of goods. The goods must be in transit. The buyer must have become insolvent. And based on this, he can stop the things. Am I clear? State briefly the essential element of contract of sale under Sale of Goods Act. Again, those 5-6 points. 2 parties, subject matter must be goods, price there should be there, property should be transferred, Shall must be unconditional. Yes or no? In the case-based question, will it be good to present by writing issue, facts, and conclusion? Answer is yes, you can do that. Difference between condition and warranty. I would not prefer this method of writing. It should be tabular format. What are the rules related to acceptance of delivery of goods? Again, these are the things. So, my dear friends, let's do one thing. Now, I would want you to participate with me. Ask me specific question if you have any. Next 15 to 20 minutes, we can discuss on that. I know you will be knowing all the answers here, whatever is mentioned. I would want you to unmute. And if your question is genuinely good enough at this junction to be answered, I will surely answer. If not, let's catch up after the examination. So the forum is open for you to ask the questions. Anybody who wants to ask, please raise your hand. I will unmute one by one. Come on, guys. Are you with me? Or you don't have any question? Can you share these files? बेटा last moment में इस फाइल को पढ़ के क्या करोगे बेटा? Whatever you read is more than sufficient for you, beta. Just revise and recall this session. That will be great. Next. Don't have any doubts? Guys, are you serious that you don't have any doubts? Sure. Come on, yaar, answer. Good. Right now, no doubts, sir. All clear. Thank you. Next. Yes, Usha.
Sir, in unpaid seller, the effect of subsale or pledge by the buyer.
Correct.
Sir, can you
see,
explain?
whenever the buyer pledges the goods, generally it does not affect the seller. But if the seller has given the consent of subsale or pledge, then the seller does not have a right to not deliver the goods. He has to deliver the goods. Clear?
If he sold in good faith.
That's what, dear. It has to be in the good faith only.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Thank
Next. Next. Any other student? Sure. Great. So let's wind up the session. It was great interacting to you. Amazing. Sir, incorporation of LLP. Great. My dear friend, incorporation LLP, there were certain set of documents which were given, right? Name के बाद कितने दिन करना है, कौन होगा, who are the designated partners, what are the personal liabilities, all those things has to be taken into step by step. Next, name reservation. After the name reservation, what happens? All those things has to be taken into consideration. Great. Condition as to merchantability means to say the goods must not have any latent defects which renders them unfit for the purpose for which it is made. A pen which does not write or a watch which does not keep time is not a mercantile goods. Next. Can we write BCR first and then law? There is no such rule stating that you should do only this and that. You can do it. But recommendation as a teacher would be go from 1 to 100, not from 100 to 1. Sir, is incorporation of company important? Yes. Custom usage of trade, where the goods are used for a specific purpose. AC to give cold air, flask to keep the hot water hot. Yes or no? If that purpose is not completed, then you can put an end to the contract. Yes, Arul? Arul?
Sir, can you explain the liability of dead partner's estate for transactions entered before his death?
Liability of an incoming partner for the transaction entered
Dead
before.
partner.
Huh?
Liability of dead partner's estate for transaction entered before his death.
Yes. Deceased partner, right?
Yes, your deceased partner.
Okay. Whenever a partner is dead, then all those transactions which were entered before, any liability coming into the picture, that will be the liability which will be passed on to his successor. And his successor will be liable only to the extent of property left.
Okay, sir.
Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Next. Next. Come on, fast, yaar. सबके दिल की धड़कनें तेज है, right? Constructive notice means to say it is a public document and it is the duty of every person to read those documents. And after reading those documents, if there are some provisions which are available, then it is an internal people who have to keep those documents ready. Misapplication of money by a partner. Whenever money is paid to a partner and partner misapplies that money, then for a third party he is discharged, but internally the partner is not discharged. He will be liable to the firm. Next. Assignment and succession. Assignment generally happens during the lifetime of the person. Rights are generally assigned, but succession happens after the death of a person. Both rights and obligations are transferred. In assignment, the mutual consent of all the parties is required. In succession, it is automatically transferred to the successor. Next. Next, fast.
So one more doubt.
Yeah, ma.
In case of retirement of a partner, is registration does notice have to be given to the registrar?
Okay. What are the things which require complete new registration and what is the things which require just an information?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good question. First and foremost thing, admission of a partner, retirement of a partner, minor becoming major, change in address of the firm, not the principal place. One more, opening of a godown, shutting down of a godown, change in profit sharing ratios. All this requires only and only information to the registrar. But what is required for the complete new registration is change in principal place of business, nature of business. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Restriction. Mama, one second. Can you explain restriction and extension of partner's authority? Partner cannot do all those acts which are outside implied authority unless until he has a given consent. Like he cannot withdraw the suit, he cannot give the consent of his liability on behalf of the firm. Those 7-8 points which we have read. Hello. Now everybody started messaging. I'm not able to follow the messages. Wait. I don't have the mock paper with me now. A company deals in sale of fruits and vegetables, is contracted to purchase of fish and later refuse to pay amount. What can the fish company do? Okay. First of all, it is not done in the due course of the business for which it is formed. Clear, Nagasmita? If retiring partner, if he is able to discharge the liability incurred before the retirement, the creditor also must agree. Answer is yes. Sir, admission of a partner hasn't informed to the registrar. Can the partnership firm file a suit against a third party? Yes, they can. Good. 3-4 questions at a time. Tuck, 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 tuck. Next. Come on, guys. अचानक क्या हो गया था? Good. Dear friends, what time is your examination tomorrow? We are left with hardly 25 hours. In case of death and insolvency, is notice required? No, it is not required. So we are left with 25 hours. Humble request, don't take stress. Be yourself. Whatever you know at this junction is the best you know. You cannot do anything extraordinary in this 25 hours. Keep cool. Take a break for half an hour, 1 hour. Have a good, healthy diet. And then study properly. Revise it once again from the Last Day Last Show book. Go to ICI website, see previous year question papers, understand what are the answers they have given. Try to understand the various questions which can be framed. Only those things you are doing for next 6-7 hours. Also concentrating on your BCK and making sure that you are mentally prepared first before entering the examination hall. Never discuss with your friends stating that I know this, do you know that? Neither come into stress nor give them the stress. बेटा कंपनी में रिटायरमेंट नहीं होता ना बेटा. Nagasmita, in case of partnership, if a partner is retired, it is reconstituted, not dissolved. Correct? In case of retirement of a partner, can a company file a case against, can a firm file a case against a third party without informing registrar of firms? Yes, they can if they are registered. So avoid as many distractions possible and be yourself, stay tuned, stay focused, and tomorrow by 5 o'clock, you are done and dusted with the subject. A deep breath, focus, and do the best. May God bless you all. Have a great time now so that you are confident tomorrow. And hopefully this session might have given you some more insights, probably that finishing touch which was required for you. And thank you the entire management of Trisha classes and K2 Learning for providing this opportunity. Thank you students for being so supportive even after reading it, revising it. You were in the session wanting to know more, and this shows that you are really focused, and hope to see you in the next level of your CA course. It should be a time to say goodbye to this foundation course by securing a great marks, coming out with flying colors, and hope to meet you at intermediate level. With this, a big round of thank you to all and wishing you all the very best. May God bless you all. Thank you, thank you, and thank you, and all the best. Stay cool, stay calm, write it, and I know you will be able to do it. Thank you very much. Anybody who wants to say thank you can say, otherwise I have seen the messages of thank you. My blessings are always with you, my dear friends. Remember one statement, if not you, who else can do it? You are the best, yeah. You will be able to do it. Correct? Thank you very much.